Welcome back to another episode of the Blitz the Bookie podcast. I'm Charlie Winkle, joined as always by Anthony Roberts. Thank you all for listening. We appreciate you taking the time out of your day to check us out. Don't forget to like and subscribe on your favorite streaming platforms, and also check us out on the Blitz the Bookie Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube pages. Also, guys, we are going to try to get together a text line so we can stay in touch with y'all a lot easier. So hopefully soon we're going to have a direct Blitz the Bookie text line. That way you all can message us, tell us how we're doing, tell us what you think, what you like and what you don't, what you want to talk about. Contests, giveaways, we're thinking about doing a lot of stuff through the text line. So once we do this, guys, please message us and reach out to us. We'd love to hear all the input that you got. So, Anthony, I had a college football withdrawal last weekend.
No doubt. I definitely did.
I know you did too. I felt like I was walking around aimlessly, just felt a little bit lost. But we did have the Kentucky-Louisville basketball game.
No doubt.
On Saturday, and that turned out exactly the same way as it has 8 out of the last 10 times that they've played, 12 out of the last 15 times they played, and 15 out of the last 20 times they played. Domination continues over Louisville basketball, leads the series 40-17.
40-7. But Big Brother should win, right? They should win.
Big Brother should win. And more often than not, when we play Louisville, we usually have somebody that just goes off. Reeves last year dropped 30 on them. Top in the year before, 24-7. Maxey, 27-7. Hero and Shea both dropped 24. MKG had 24 and 19 on them. Jorts, Josh Harrelson, 23-14. And this year, Lamont Butler drops 32, 10 for 10 from the field, 6 for 6 from the from the three-point line. Didn't have a perfect game. He did miss a couple free throws, but 32 points, 6 assists, 3 rebounds, fried Louisville.
I think Lamont Butler definitely, Charlie, has solidified himself as the leader, the best player on the team. I think we got a lot of really good players, but I do think he's the go-to number one player on the team. But
wasn't even supposed to play.
That's right.
Wasn't even supposed to play. I had a buddy go to the game. I texted him during warm-ups, asked him if Lamont was warming up. He sent me a picture. He was, and, man, he went out there and put a whooping on Louisville. I love it. Kentucky moves to 10-1.
Not to interrupt you, but do you remember when Derek Anderson went off on him that year?
Oh, yeah.
DA was slamming, jamming.
Derek dunked on somebody bad.
Bad. The game I'll always remember is the one where our first year with Cal, with John Wall and Boogie. We had been down a couple years, and that was our coming out party. We were really good that year. And Boogie, DeMarcus' cousin, gave the elbow. You remember that one?
Swapshire?
Yep. That was a good
elbow
one.
Swapshire.
Yep.
It's been some good ones. Well, Ulis ended up with a bloody eye. The famous picture that's out there of Tyler Ulis with the blood dripping down his cheek or his eye. That was the Louisville game.
Yep. A lot of good memories. Louisville has a few good memories too, but just not as many as us.
Not as many. U of L's 6-5 now, 0-3 versus the SEC. If they want to talk shit about the SEC, they won't do it in basketball. They try to do it in football, which is more laughable than doing it in basketball. But U of L's 0-3 versus the SEC.
You know, we talked about the last episode was the SEC. You know, they have all these teams in the top 25. So many teams in the top 10. I think it was 7 out of the top 10. You even mentioned it, and I kind of agreed with you that are they as good as what we thought they were?
They kicked ass this weekend.
They
again.
did. They're good. They're good. They're good.
Look,
NIL.
I hope it is everything that I'm hearing, because it's not just one or two sources. Everybody's talking about it. National sources, local sources around here. Everybody's talking about how good the SEC really is this year, and I hope it is.
And at least in basketball, there's a tournament at the end. So, you know, you don't play that crazy hard schedule and then people hold some losses against you. I think what goes on in football. So in basketball, you have the 64-team tournament.
I support the SEC, but I'm not this SEC homer. I'm really not. I actually used to always cheer against the SEC teams. I've changed that a little bit over time because I do, you know, the power of the conference kind of means something. But I've always been the one, bowl games at the end of the year, Florida. I want Florida to get their ass kicked.
Okay.
I get it. Some people want the SEC to have good records and stuff like that, but I'm kind of in the middle of that. So I'm not a huge SEC homer, but I do promise you this. I hope the SEC is as good as what everybody's talking about in basketball this year.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
U of L, 6-5 overall. They do got a couple good players, though.
And I'll tell you this.
Chucky Hepburn kid is pretty good. And the Terrence Edwards, I mean, he got in foul trouble, but I think he had 20-something points. They're not a bad team. They're looking a little bit better. 6 wins. How many did they have last year? 8?
Not many. And I'll say this. I don't think there's some fine-tuned product or some great team, but I do. Their coach coaches hard. He coaches hard, man. I've watched him.
It's hard to not like him now. Maybe we'll find a way here in the future. But right now, I mean, he seems like he's doing what he needs to do for his program.
We watched the game together, Charlie, and just paying attention. His team plays hard defense. They rebound hard. He knew everybody's foul situation as soon as it happened. As soon as a foul happened late in the game, he wanted the foul to some coaches don't know that. Some coaches, they got an assistant talking to him in their ear. You seen, he knew it right away, coaching his ass off. He was outmanned. He was outgunned, but the guy did coach hard. If he can get some talent, I think the guy's a winner. I like what he said, too. I seen a thing. They said, well, how's things going for you? He says something to the effect of, I got a great job. They give me free gear.
He's got a hot wife.
And got a great, make a lot of money, and he got a hot wife. He's right.
Can't ask for much more.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. It's hard to not like the guy right now, but I'm sure we'll find a way. Did you want to touch on that Army-Navy game before we move on? I know you.
Sure.
I'm kind of pissed about that because I forgot to make the bet. I liked Army Navy plus the points, and they won by what'd they win by? A couple touchdowns.
Yep, they won by a couple touchdowns. I forget the exact
Pretty much.
score.
I mean, they were winning the whole game.
Yeah,
right?
they were, and it was a domination. It was a domination. Look, Navy had lost Blake, star quarterback, Mr. Everything, Blake Horvath. They lost him last 3 games of the year. They struggled. Army ended with Notre Dame. And they actually had a big win. I think, who was that against? Was that Tulane that they had the bigger win against there where they controlled it? Yeah. So Army came in the game -7. And a lot of it was just how they ended the season. But Navy was without their all-everything quarterback. Blake Horvath came back for that game. I'm a huge fan of him. I don't know what his plans are next year. But I'll tell you, in that game, he threw for just 107 yards in the air, 2 touchdowns, though. But he ran for 25 times for 204 yards and ran for 2 touchdowns. So he was responsible for 4 touchdowns, rushed for 204, threw for 107 against what's been a good Army defense all year. So if we're not doing the badass and the bonehead of the week this week, but if I was to give a badass, I'd give it to the Air Force Academy's Blake Horvath. Charlie, he was really awesome. He's fun to watch. He's a playmaker for Navy. Just fun to watch.
Like I said, I'm just pissed. There was only one college football game on. I felt pretty strongly about which side I liked. I ended up betting like 3 college basketball games and forgetting about the college football game, and it would have been an easy win for me. They were plus like 6.
Yep.
Won by what? 14?
And
not just what they won by.
Not just won by 14, but it really was never in doubt.
Yeah,
it just wasn't. So
by the time I even remembered the game was on, it was the third quarter. I look and they're winning by double digits, and I'm like, shit. They were getting almost a touchdown in that game. So
yeah, that was a bad line. That's where certain games, if a lot of people don't follow them, like I just knew because I follow Navy. That I don't follow them, but I keep up with them. I keep an eye on them. I'd watched them early in the year, and I really liked Blake Horvath and how they ran things. But him being with that's what I think. It's easier to pick college football than NFL. In the NFL, nothing slips by. But every game in the NFL with fantasy, with everything going on, it's so analyzed. Nothing slips by. In college football, I feel like with the lines, there are certain things that just slip by the wayside. Nobody ever talks about them because they're not important games. And there's so many college football games. So that's why I think it's a little easier to pick college football at times.
Well, I was walking aimlessly this Saturday with just one college football game, but this weekend, it all starts.
It does.
It all starts. We're going to have 4 big games. I think there is a couple bowl games scattered in there earlier in the day on Friday and possibly some on Sunday. I don't know if they even try to go up against the NFL on Sunday. I have to look at that. But some of the other bowl games are starting as well. I know most people aren't probably going to be too excited or amped up for any of those. But Anthony's kind of eyed one up. One coming up on Friday where there's no opt-outs. So There might end up being maybe a couple other bowl games that are actually interesting. We'll talk about some of them, but of course this week we'll focus on the 4 that matter, the 4 big ones, the first round of the 12-team playoff. Can't wait.
No doubt. As we head into college football, here's just a couple things that we want to go over and do first. NBA Cup for those NBA fans out there. I'm not a huge NBA fan, but I do watch it. I do keep up a little bit. My son, he likes the NBA, so I hear it from him all the time, see it on TV all the time, and I keep up a little bit, but not to the extent that I do with college football. For those that don't know, the last couple of years, they've been having this kind of early to mid-season tournament. It's held in Las Vegas. I think it's a 1-game elimination. They're playing for money. Yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but with all the money they make, but it's essentially a tournament of all the teams. Am I right by saying that, Charlie? A tournament of all the teams?
I'm going to be honest. I don't know how it's set up. I'm not sure
I think
if
that's how it
every
is.
team starts in it or not. I'm not sure.
Well, it's a 1-game elimination.
I know the Lakers won it last year.
Yeah, they did.
The Lakers won it last year. So who was in the finals? So was the finals just the other day?
Last night.
Last night? So
yep.
Who was in the finals?
The Bucks end up beating the Thunder 97-81. And each player on the winning team got $500,000. And that might not be a lot for the Giannis's or LeBrons of the world, but reading a little bit about it and talking a little bit about it, they said that the young players, maybe the bench players, they were super excited about the money part. And they say even the stars, the money was important to them. What's $500,000?
I guarantee it. That's huge, especially for these rookies, first couple year guys that are not on big contracts. That's huge.
Do you think that, I guess the agent don't get none of that, huh? So that's probably a plus too,
I don't know about that.
Okay. I don't know either.
No, I don't know.
I don't know either.
But I find it hard to, you might be right on that.
I might be wrong
the agent
too.
Doesn't get it. Agent didn't do nothing for that, right?
Yeah.
He ain't playing that tournament.
No, that's right. The losing team, they got $200,000 apiece. And it paid out down. So it went to like $100,000 for third, and that was a big deal. So for those NBA fans out there, the Bucks beat the Thunder. I know the Bucks started off, I think it was like 1-8, and since then they've been pretty damn hot. So
here's my question about the NBA: how are they paying these big ass huge contracts when the product is garbage?
I was just reading something the other day, Charlie, and maybe we'll touch on it in another episode. But the ratings are down for the NBA.
I could have told you that. I don't even watch it.
Sure.
It's just bad. It's not a good product. It hasn't been for a handful of years, but I think it's just getting worse.
They say Silver, NBA commissioner, he's looking into things. The biggest thing he was saying, other people saying, that Boston's on pace right now to shatter the 3-point attempt record for any season. And that's one of the biggest gripes people are saying, is all people are doing is just shooting threes.
Threes and dunks. That's it.
He says the NBA is considering what do they do to make it a better product. And there's rule changes they can do, and they've talked about. But Silver talked about all the offenses copying each other. He says when you watch one team, it's like watching, every team. So there's some things they can do and different things. But maybe we'll touch on that this winter as things get kind of a little bit slower on the football front there.
I just think the product is bad. I think, like you said, the ratings are down. Their TV contracts, I don't know the numbers to all this shit, but how do they continue to pay these huge contracts when their ratings are so down?
The streaming companies are really getting involved. I did read that. So much of, I think it's like half of their stuff is not from traditional cable anymore. It's from Amazon streaming service, different things. So it's a changing world, changing landscape in that area. So as we went through those things, that was some of the stuff that went on in the sports world that we live in, that we all love. But as everyone knows, it is Wednesday as we are recording. I think it's next Wednesday. We are 7 days away from
1 week. Ho, ho, ho.
That's right, for Christmas time. So I hope you've enjoyed your holiday season. And my only advice to anybody out there is try to take the last 7 days and enjoy the season. That's what it's all about, guys. So if you can take a day off work to spend with your family, I know money's important, but I promise you those memories are more important. So as we do that, me and Charlie had talked about it, try to do something fun on the show that maybe gets everybody's interest a little bit. Me and Charlie are both 42 years old. Are you 43 yet, Charlie?
Yes, I'm 43. Look, that's terrible. I don't even know how old I am. I just turned 43.
What's your birthday and year?
November 30th, 81.
Okay, I'm June 25th, 82. So we're about 6-7 months apart. So we just talked about the most popular toys of our childhood that was kind of the sought-after items for Christmas. And we decided, hey, why not try to have a bracket? Put a bracket together like we did with the fighting coaches. And so we just start throwing some ideas together.
I think this one's going to be better.
Yeah, I think so.
This one's going to be better.
I do. And we threw
this is the most popular, the hottest, right? This is not what we like better.
Mm-hmm.
This is which one we think was hotter.
I will say a lot of them are.
When I say hot, I mean popular, not stolen.
A lot of them are kind of boy toys, but we've got a few girl toys on there. We could have maybe did a better job with that, but it's kind of what we did. We're both guys. A lot of our listeners.
We got a couple of them on there.
Yeah, so
it could have been. We did miss the My Little Pony.
Yeah,
probably should have made the cut, but it didn't.
It didn't. There was 2 teams, 2 items that we did not. We kind of outlawed them from the tournament because we thought they were on steroids and they would win straight out for us boys and girls.
Yeah, they were not allowed in this tournament. It was just an automatic win if they were in either one of them.
It was. The first one is sports cards.
Baseball cards all the way to the finals.
Yeah.
It's getting my vote.
If you were anything like I was, anytime I got an extra $1, it went to the card shop. It just went to the card shop. That's why they probably overprinted in the 90s there, late 80s, and they're not worth nothing now. So,
and I'm going to be honest, they probably didn't deserve in this bracket anyways. This bracket is for the hottest of the Christmas season. I could make an argument that baseball cards weren't ever the hottest.
They were all year.
They were.
They were all
They
year.
were. That's what I'm saying. I mean, we're biased though, right?
That's right.
They would have won.
No,
they're out.
They would have. They would have. And then the other thing was the cold hard cash. You
can't put cash in.
You can't. But at some point, I know a lot of us got cash for Christmas. And
you want cash or you want a My Little Pony?
Yeah, I get it.
Easy winner.
Yeah, so we outlawed those and didn't put them in the tournament. We actually went with the 12-man tournament, set up just like the college football playoff. The top 4 seeds, which we ranked just me and Charlie together, they all get buys.
I think we did pretty good on the top 4.
I do too. So I'll read off the tournament, and we'll read off the first round games.
Hold on, real quick, before he says the number 1 seed, just think in your head, real quick, the best toy of your lifetime around the Christmas time. Think of it, and here it comes. The 1 seed is
Nintendo.
Nintendo's
going to be tough to beat, boys. The first real gaming system that was popular. You had Atari before that, but Nintendo was the first mainstream video game that everybody had access to, and it was kind of the beginning of when computers and technology was starting to come on. Everybody went out and got a Nintendo. Even the poor kids had Nintendos somehow. So Nintendo was a big deal. You know, as everybody plays games online and different things, it was the grandfather of those games. I mean, Atari was out before them.
Atari was out, but
Atari was just a guy with an idea.
Yeah, and Nintendo was the first one with the, 16 bits, which was a huge difference. You know, Atari games, they're Frogger.
Atari was like the great-great-grandfather that had the idea, had the vision, but Nintendo put the vision into action.
Absolutely.
So it's Nintendo is the number 1 seed. The number 2 seed is Tickle Me Elmo. Very popular toy. Charlie, you remember Tickle Me Elmo?
Tickle Me Elmo is the first real craze that I can remember. I guess that was, what year did I say that was, Anthony?
I think 96.
Tickle Me Elmo, 96. So I was about 13 or 14 years old. This is the first toy that I remember people fighting over and just being crazy over. There
was some before that, but we just don't remember.
There was one before that because we have them on the list, which was early 80s. But until 96, I didn't remember any toys being like that where people were fighting at the malls and all that stuff. Tickle Me Elmo is the first one that I can remember where people were really struggling to find it. It was all sold out. People were fighting over it. So Tickle Me Elmo, I think maybe it's just the age that I was, but I think Tickle Me Elmo's got a little bit of an argument for the 1 seed, as big as it was, but it's hard to beat Nintendo.
So as we move on, we get into the 3 seed. This one was really big for me. It was the biggest toy of my childhood for me personally.
This might be the biggest boy toy of all time.
Yeah.
If you just think about what it is, and of all time, from when I don't even know when this came out, in the 70s or something.
It actually came out in 1964, but they had the show in the 80s, and that's when it really became popular. They had a new age show, and it was G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe for me was everything. I know when I was a kid, I wanted G.I. Joe everything. It definitely was a super hot
It was
item.
just one of those things everybody had.
Sure. And
Everybody had a handful of them.
They did.
I had probably 50 of them.
You know what I think it was? I think with Tickle Me Elmo and the other item, they weren't sure how popular it was going to be, so they only made so many, and they were a little harder to make. On G.I. Joes, they were super easy to make, so there wasn't no shortage. That's what made the Tickle Me Elmo such a big thing, is they were really popular, and there was only so many of them, so there was a craze. With G.I. Joes, they could produce those pretty easy, but I'll never forget, Charlie, probably the Christmas gift I remember most. I wanted the Cobra base. It was like a round circle.
Cobra was my favorite character, too.
He was the bad guy. Cobra was the bad guy.
I liked him.
He was the primary bad guy. They had the other one that was built like
Cobra
like a
was
snake.
just in all black, right?
Yeah, Cobra.
All black.
All black.
He had the
little
red.
blue.
I think he had a red, didn't he?
I think he had a little blue on him, too. I might be wrong.
He's just a black ninja, right?
Yeah. The other primary bad guy was the guy who was built like a King Cobra. Had the big King Cobra suit. I forget his Serpentor. I forget his name. But for me, I wanted that Cobra base. It was cool. It was a circle, a place for an airplane that would come out of the middle. I wanted it so bad, and I'll never forget. My mom got it. It was pretty cool. So to get that Cobra base, that was an awesome Christmas present for me.
Well, the number 4 was my biggest.
Okay.
The number 4 seed was my biggest present I ever got as a kid. I want to say it was 91, maybe 92, probably 11, 12 years old. Got me a GT Performer.
GT
Performer. So we just put it as a bike.
Mongooses.
The Mongoose, the Diamondback, the GT, the Haros, all of them.
The rich kids' bikes. That's what I used to call them.
They were. I still thank my mom to this day for getting me that GT Performer. All blue GT Performer with white mags. I've looked them up recently, and things are worth thousands of dollars.
Oh, yeah. The Mongooses
now,
and the
I rode
Diamondback.
the shit out of it, so it wouldn't be in good condition, but I wish I still had it. I do still have my 2 Diamondbacks that I had when this was more like high school, middle school to high school, but the GT Performer was when I was about 10 or 11. Best present I ever got. I bet it cost $250 back then, but I'm going to tell you, that was probably, what, $1,000?
Yeah. No, it was. It was.
$1,000 equal to now. I mean, that was a big gift. So, Mom, thank you for the GT Performer. I just wish I still had it.
I had the Schwinn. I ended up getting a couple nicer bikes later, but when I was a kid,
Schwinns were nice.
When I was a kid and people really wanted them, I didn't have one at the time. But I wasn't a huge bike guy. A lot of my friends lived close.
I was.
Okay.
My buddy had a Haro, a real nice
Yeah,
Haro.
Haro. Skyways. You remember the Skyways?
Yep.
Yeah.
I always liked them. But I was a GT guy, and then, like I said, I didn't even really want the Diamondback. I just kind of got it. I think my dad got it for me. But I love the bike, and I still got it to this day, and I'm glad I do. I actually got 2 of them.
You know what crushed me a lot? As my son started to get older, and, of course, I was older by then, a lot older. I had a family. But the thing that broke my heart the most is when I went into Walmart and I seen Mongooses in Walmart. Nothing against Walmart, but it's kind of a value place. Mongoose was always known kind of as...
They got the Mongooses now.
Yeah, they bought them out.
Yep.
Mongoose sold out to Walmart like other companies did. But, at the time, Mongoose was a custom bike, like a nice bike, a high-dollar bike.
Early 90s, Mongoose was
probably the most
really
popular.
Good bike.
I would argue to say that maybe there was a few of these that were better bikes, maybe even a little bit more expensive.
I think early 90s, GT and Mongoose... And
Diamondback was big, but I'd put Mongoose over them all personally. Not that they were better. The GT might have been better.
The Diamondback got more popular in like the mid to late 90s. I could be wrong about that. Maybe that was just my experience with it. But I feel like late 80s, early 90s was really GT, Mongoose, even that Haro and
they were the Haro and Skyways. I think they were even more expensive than the GTs and Mongooses.
There was another one, too, that's drawn a
Predator?
blank.
The Predator bike? Remember those?
Not a Schwinn, but it was something else. I can't remember.
Do you remember the Predator? Was that a brand, or was that just a kind of a series? Or I don't know. But
I can't remember. No, the Predator. Was that?
It was a purple bike. It was a purple bike. A purple and bluish
was that
bike.
like a Mongoose Predator or a Diamondback Predator?
I think it might have been like a series.
I think it probably was.
Yeah, I do too.
I think it was.
So, that's
the top 4. Nintendo 1, Tickle Me Elmo 2, G.I. Joe 3, and the bike as the 4 seed. So, Anthony, you want to run? We'll,
you know what I like about that real quick? That we feel like those are the best 4 teams. We can't say that about the format of the college football playoff and the college football bracket.
I agree.
You know, everybody's been talking about it, but Boise State and Arizona State having biases. They're both decent teams, but it's ridiculous.
Our 12 seed is Pogs.
Yeah, Pogs.
And if we were running this like the college football playoff, Pogs would be the 3 seed.
No, they would. They would.
I don't think that would be fair.
No, it wouldn't. Not at all.
Our 11 is Micro Machines.
Yep.
Micro Machines is a hell of a toy. Loved them. They shouldn't be the 3 or 4 seed.
They shouldn't be getting a bye. That's the biggest thing. A bye's big.
So what we're going to do, I think, Anthony, is we're just going to do this first round, right? We're going to kind of run this like the tournament. We're going to go through these first 4 matchups, and then next week we'll finish it out.
Mm-hmm. And for a first round game, 8-9 game, playing into the 1 seed, we have famous Transformers, came out in 1983, will be going up against Furby, the hot toy from 1998. Transformers I was very young. My brother, which is a few years older than me, it was a hot toy for him, but I remember them being crazy popular. They're like the car or semi that turns into a fighting action figure. There's been several movies before where like Shia LaBeouf film, very popular. And the Furbies. You remember the Furbies at all, Charlie?
Oh, yeah. Furby was huge. That was 98, I think.
Furby was 98.
98. I mean, we were in high school, so I didn't mess with no Furbies, but I absolutely remember Furbies. It was the hottest item of 98.
Just like Tickle Me Elmo, there was kind of a shortage of them. They didn't expect them to be that popular. They were the first not the first, but one of the early learning toys. You could actually teach it certain things.
I'd argue to say Tickle Me Elmo was 96, Furby was 98. I'd say Furby owes everything they got to Tickle Me Elmo.
No doubt. But there was a shortage, and that's what made the craze. That's the shortage is people, DDTing each other in the stores, and several fights broke out over them. I remember seeing that
But
stuff
like
on the
I
news.
said, it's all because of 2 years earlier with Tickle Me Elmo.
Do you think that
copycats?
Do you think that the people that made those maybe made a shortage of Furbies on purpose? But you would want to sell them, but like the hype factor about the fights and stuff, do you think they were staged?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't. Now, maybe some of them were, but I don't think so. I think people are fucking stupid.
Yeah, crazy.
I think they're stupid. They're fighting over something called a Furby.
Yeah.
So Transformers against Furby, who you got? I'm going Transformers.
No doubt.
I actually had a lot of Transformers when I was young. I remember having... Who was the main guy's name? What was the main guy's
Maximus
name?
Prime.
Maximus Prime. I had a big one of him, and then who was the bad guy?
Ooh, what was his name? I forget.
Yeah, I can't remember either. But I had a bunch of Transformers. I got to go with Transformers here. I know Furby was huge in 98, but Transformers, it says it was the biggest toy in what year?
83.
83. It says it was the biggest Christmas toy.
84. I'm sorry, 84.
And I'm just going to, my tiebreaker is going to go to longevity.
Yeah.
I mean, Transformers is
still popular.
Yeah, still popular. Got movies. I bet you there's still toys right now in Walmart. Go in there, you can find a Transformer right now. So I got Transformers moving on. Who you got?
I think Furby was a hype deal. It definitely was popular. Definitely was a craze.
Furby might be worth some money right now.
Yeah, but just like sports stuff, just like on sports stuff, there's teams that are hype. I think Furby was all hype. I think it was a craze, and Transformers are still popular. They're still making movies. I even remember the little slogan, Transformers, robots in disguise.
Yep, they were good movies, dude. The first couple ones were really good. I kind of kept up with them at the beginning. Yep. Really good movies. I kind of stopped after the third or fourth. They're probably on like 15 now.
Yep.
My wife watches them all the time.
They're good movies. They're quality movies, big actors. So, yep.
All right, Transformers moving on. We'll play the 1 seed Nintendo. They better get the rest because they've got a battle coming up with Nintendo.
Legendary Nintendo.
Next game, let's go 5 seed against the 12 seed. We already told you the 12 seed is Pogs. If y'all remember, Pogs were pretty damn big. I don't know, was that mid-90s?
It was.
Middle school, I feel like I was middle school.
You know what was great about Pogs? To me, this is what great as a dad now. Looking back, I wouldn't have told you this as a kid because I just didn't think like that. But they were a very popular item that was really cheap.
Yeah, real cheap.
Very
cheap. Simple.
Yeah, it was all about finding
idea.
them. It wasn't like to get the rare. It was about finding them. It wasn't about who could spend the most money. And that's my favorite part about it. For me, we didn't have a ton of money growing up. We weren't dirt poor, but we were just working class poor. And for me, looking back as a dad now, I like the item because it was a cheap item that really to find the rare ones, you just had to get lucky or find them somewhere. So or trade for them.
And if you don't know what pogs are, just go Google it because I can't even really explain it. It's like a coin. They had a big coin. I don't even want to explain it. Just Google it. Like Kirk Cignetti. Just Google the shit. Pogs. If you're listening,
you know what it is.
You know what Pogs are. Pogs, 12 seed, playing against the 5 seed. Look, we debated on doing this, but Nintendo had to have a competitor in this, and Sega/Super Nintendo is going to make up the 5 seed here.
It is, and I think it's a very strong 5 seed. I know Nintendo was popular. Super Nintendo and Sega, Charlie, it was probably, for our specific age, it might even have been more popular. We got introduced with Nintendo, some basic games. Sega and Super Nintendo, I feel like, were the first game systems really to take the games to the next level. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah. Maybe the bit thing that I said earlier might have been wrong. Y'all might be laughing at me on the 8 and 16 bit. I can't remember. Maybe Sega was the one that took the next step with the bits. I think that might be right. I don't know. Either way, I'm not exactly sure when the Super Nintendo came out. I was more of a Sega guy.
They were direct competitors.
Yeah, I had friends that were more Super Nintendo guys, but I was always a Sega guy. Sega, of course, came out with NBA Jam and some of the games like that. But Super Nintendo, hard to beat because you couldn't play Mario Kart unless you played Super Nintendo. Sega and Super Nintendo had to be in this bracket.
Yeah.
I believe they had to. Nintendo had to have somebody to battle, at least have a chance to battle against.
You know what was cool about Sega and Super Nintendo? They were the first game system you didn't have to blow in the tape.
Yeah, that is true. Sega CD. I didn't have a Sega CD, but I had a really good friend that had it. It flamed out in like a year.
You remember their competition
was shit.
Their competition.
Gamecast, but Gamecast was a piece of shit.
See, I liked Gamecast.
It didn't last.
Yeah. Well, I think technology was really starting to move fast, and then the PlayStations came out after that.
Yeah, PlayStation took over everything after that.
They did.
You're right. Gamecast and Sega CD were the first ones to try the CD part of it, but PlayStation came in and wiped them right out.
You still remember what game was that? Was that Contra? Was that Mario Brothers? Up, down, left, right, or what was the code?
I think that was Contra.
Contra, get y'all the free men.
Yeah,
up, down, left, right, up, down, left, right, A, B, start.
There you go, Contra.
That's the code if you ever want to go back and play.
Unlimited lives right there.
That's right.
Yeah. The only code I remember is from a Ninja Turtles game. I think it was the first Ninja Turtles game. I don't know. I don't even know how. BA, up, down, BA, left, right, BA, B, select, start. I am 43 years old. I have no clue how I still remember that.
Yeah.
I've not played that game I'm 43. I haven't played it in 33 years.
I get it. I
still know that code.
I get it.
Ninja Turtles. I'm pretty sure it gives you unlimited lives or something in Ninja Turtles.
Did you ever have a Game Genie?
Oh, yeah, I had the Game Genie, absolutely. Game Genie was awesome when it first came out. You could cheat. Let's do that. Give me all the codes, all the all the free lives, all the coins, whatever it was.
So, yeah, some of those games are actually worth money, though. I know Zelda, I've seen it was the gold tape. It was kind of unusual. And there's some rare ones that was actually worth a decent amount of money. We just found out one of Charlie's was worth like $80. It was a game that I'd never heard of. So
Softball, All-Star Softball. If you don't know about it, look it up. It's the best Nintendo game of all time, and about 1 out of 50 people know about it.
I know you're being silly when you say it because Tecmo Bowl was pretty popping.
Dude, I love Tecmo Bowl. I love. We kind of talked about it. Mike
it's
Tyson's
good times.
Punch Out.
That's right.
Mario 3 was awesome. I loved all the. I'm telling you. All-Star Softball was the coolest game that there is on Nintendo. Check it out. Pay $80 for it, and then thank me later.
That's awesome. You can get that from Charlie Winkle's eBay account.
Yeah. I put a link to it on the bottom here.
That's right.
It's easy for me. Sega, Super Nintendo, routes, Pogs.
Yeah, no doubt. Pogs, I like you, Pogs. I like the cheap cost and how you were available to all kids. But Sega, Super Nintendo was easy winner.
Yep. All right, next game, 7 seed. We got Walkman/CD player here. Look, we tried to include mostly toys, but when that Walkman came out, when the CD player, the Discman, the Walkman and the Discman, when they came out, they were hot. Especially that CD, the Discman.
For us, the Walkman was hot. Maybe
that thing was big. The Discman you had to be real careful with because shit would skip all over you. You couldn't step through, or you had to be careful. You couldn't turn it upside down, try to put it in your pocket. It would skip on you.
It was better than rewinding tapes, though.
It was. No more rewinding.
No doubt.
Yeah, so Walkman and CD player is the 7 seed against the 10 seed He-Man.
Masters of the Universe. He-Man and She-Ra.
He-Man and She-Ra. And Skeletor.
Skeletor, yeah.
Skeletor was the bad guy. Look, this is another one for me.
Easy.
I had a Walkman. I had a Discman. I can remember getting the Discman for Christmas. But I had a lot of He-Man. And I watched He-Man. I remember seeing the movie He-Man. I'm sorry to the Walkman. I'm sorry to the Discman. I'm sorry to the portable music community. But He-Man is taking it for me. Got to.
No, I know the Walkman and the CD player was big. The Walkman, actually, we missed the craze a little bit. It came out in 79, but we were we got the portable CD craze. And I'm sure they were big, but for a kid on Christmas, Masters of the Universe, He-Man and She-Ra, that was a big deal.
They had that bass. There was a bass, the big fortress type things.
Yep.
I can still picture what it looks like right in my mind right now. And again, I haven't seen it in 35 years.
Yeah, no, it's.
But I can picture. I can't remember what it was called, but it was the Masters of the Universe, like main. I can't remember if it was He-Man's bass or Skeletor's bass, but it was this big. I feel like it was like a rock.
I remember it.
Big rock thing, and yeah, it was huge, man. So He-Man for me is actually an easy winner here.
So as a 10th seed, and we both seeded these. They're probably underseeded a little bit. If you really follow toys, I think Masters of the Universe was a big deal. They will go out to face a tough 2 seed in Tickle Me Elmo. So
that's going to be tough.
No, it is tough. That Tickle Me Elmo craze. I don't know who wins that. We'll have to look into it. Me and Charlie had talked about it. In the second round, we will have callers if we have a tie. I think we're going to need some
I think so, too. Yeah. We got some good matchups.
We do. And the last matchup in our bracket will be the 6th seed, Cabbage Patch Dolls, I guess they were.
Cabbage Patch Kids. You want to talk about underseeded? This is your underseeded right here. They could have argued as a top 4 seed.
And they will face kind of a scrappy little
Micro Machines.
Yeah, Micro Machines.
Micro Machines.
Yeah. If you remember the Micro Machine guy on the commercial.
It talked real fast like this.
Yeah, it was cool. So I think it's going to be a tough matchup for Micro Machines against Cabbage Patch. But they're here. They're in the top 12.
Didn't Micro Machines guy make a cameo on Saved by the Bell a couple times as a teacher?
Something like that.
I think he was a teacher on Saved by the Bell for a couple episodes.
I think the commercials were actually better than the Micro. I like Micro Machines.
I had a bunch of them.
For those who don't,
a case. I still might have it. I had a case that's got little individual slots, and you could put them in there. I had a bunch of Micro Machines. Would you make your pick yet?
Cabbage Patch. Micro Machines ain't beating them.
Cabbage Patch.
Yeah, I did.
Cabbage Patch Kids seems to be the first mob scene craze at the malls. I watched a video the other night, 1983, people were in the malls, parents were fighting each other.
That was the best.
It was nuts. So until anybody can find me an instance before 1983 when people were fighting in the malls over a baby doll, I'm going to say Cabbage Patch Kids is underseeded here, and I say they blow out Micro Machines. Which one would I rather have? I'd rather have Micro Machines, but Cabbage Patch Kids I think might be, and I could be wrong, but might be the original parents will whoop your ass to get it.
I'm going to tell you this. I know we all do internet shopping. It's easier. It's more convenient. You can find deals. I understand the value of internet shopping, but the worst thing about internet shopping is it pretty much became the death of Black Friday. There should be a rule that no online vendors are allowed to sell anything on Black Friday. Bring back Black Friday. I hope Trump does that when he gets into office. Look, Black Friday is cool, dude.
Black Friday great again.
Dude, listen to me. Going out, camping out, biting. Me and my wife got our first house, and there was a really good deal on a washer and dryer front loader. They were brand new at the time, and Sears had one on sale. I'd got there at like 9 o'clock. We needed it bad. It was a good deal. It was going to save me a good amount of money. It was one of them doorbusters. Like, it was the biggest thing that I think they were selling them for like $300 a piece. I think they were like $700 or $800 a piece. And so we needed them. On those doorbusters, they would only have a handful of items. So you had to get there really early to get it. The store didn't open till like 5 or 6 in the morning. I got in my car. I pulled up to Sears, It was like 10 o'clock. And I said, it was really cold. I'll never forget. I said, I'm going to wait here until another car pulls up because I was trying to stay in the warm as long as I could. It wasn't like 10:20. I see headlights pulling in the parking lot. I had to get my ass up, go up to that door and freeze my ass off. But I got my front loader washer and dryer and saved me and Kate probably $600, which we needed at the time. Yeah. You have any Black Friday memories?
Yeah. Staying in the house.
Yeah.
I don't do that shit.
I got out in that.
You couldn't pay me to do that shit. I did hear on the radio, I think last week, that they did a poll of whatever these 20-year-olds are these days. I don't know what they're called. But they asked them how they're going to do their holiday shopping. And a high percentage of them actually said they were going to the malls.
Yeah. They listen, I get it. I get the online shopping, but there's something that's missed there. Going to the malls at Christmas time, seeing Santa, there's value there. Yeah.
Go to the malls, support your malls, because these malls are shutting down left and right. So
they are.
But I did hear that young people are starting maybe to go back to the malls a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. We'll see. Times change. So we've got our first 4 games of our toy bracket done. Next week we will jump back into it and get into. Maybe we'll just finish the rest of it next week. Who knows? We'll see how it plays out. But next week, Nintendo against Transformers, the bike against Sega/Super Nintendo, Tickle Me Elmo going up against He-Man, and G.I. Joe is going to face the Cabbage Patch Kids. That'd be a heck of a fight.
I would.
G.I. Joe against the Cabbage Patch Kids.
Ain't nobody whooping G.I. Joe.
So we'll jump back into that next week, guys. Hope y'all had a little fun with that. And like I said, we're probably going to need some tiebreakers, so we might need some callers next week. We'll keep you updated on that as well. All right, Anthony, college football. Let's get back into it, man.
College football, the time is here, guys.
It's here, finally.
I went through heavy withdrawals last week. Saturday morning came, and there was only one game to bet on, Army-Navy, which I love the Army-Navy game. I had the winner. But for the past how many ever weeks is in a college football season, I'd wake up. Actually, I'd go to bed Friday really digging into the games. Like I do all my homework during the week and read, and I try to have a few picks for y'all on Wednesday. But I really didn't start deep diving until early Saturday morning. I usually wake up really early, 6, 7 o'clock, and I'd really just sit down, no distractions, and dig into everything that I thought about all week. Cross-reference things, analyze things. I enjoy doing that. Start to watch a little college game day and watch college football the rest of the day, which is my favorite sport in the world. And so not having that last week, I definitely went through withdrawals. I know you said you did a little bit too, Charlie, huh?
I did, yeah. Just felt kind of lost early in the day. The Kentucky-Louisville game was at 5 o'clock?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Once that started, I was good to go. But, yeah, early in the day, looking for stuff to bet. Like I said, I bet 2 or 3 college basketball games. I did okay. But I was kind of bummed when I forgot about the Navy-Army game because I felt like I had a strong feeling on the Navy side of that game. Forgot all about it. So, yeah, I definitely did, Anthony. I had withdrawals. I was Saturday, as soon as the Kentucky-Louisville game was over, I'm saying, please just get me to tomorrow so I can watch some football on Sunday.
No doubt.
And I knew at least I had some football on Sunday coming.
That's the good thing for me for NFL. I have become more of an NFL fan over the past 3 to 4 years. Of course, when I was a kid, I loved the NFL. And I kind of got away from it as the fantasy was popular. I'd always bet it, but it never did it for me. I love the college atmosphere, the college tradition. But over the last 3 to 4 years, I've got into it more. And what I love about it most, as I come off this college football drug, it kind of weans me off football a little bit. And I've really started to enjoy the NFL a lot. So it kind of gives me, when does the NFL go to? Late January, Charlie?
Well, regular season till the end of the December.
But playoffs and everything.
Playoffs, yep. Super Bowl be first weekend of December, or first weekend of February.
Let's keep an eye on that day.
Maybe the second week of February. Now they keep pushing it back.
Let's keep an eye on that date because if you have any friends after the Super Bowl that you're worried about them going through heavy withdrawals, make sure you're there for them. Might need you. Wives, you might get your husbands back. So that's kind of nice on that. Just kind of keep an eye on any friends that might go through withdrawals because I definitely felt a little bit.
It's already starting.
Yeah.
It's already starting. It's not even over yet.
Yeah, no doubt. So The big games are here, guys. College football the playoffs will start Friday night. There is a game we do want to go on before we go into the playoffs. There is a game Friday at 3:30. It's a bowl game. And there's one reason in particular I want to go over it. There's hardly no opt-outs. Any of the starters, any of the main players, there's no opt-outs. It's kind of a top 25-ish type game. I would argue to say one of the teams was playing better than anybody. Not anybody, but top 20-ish at the end of the year. And the game will be Tulane will travel to Raymond James Stadium. That's home of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and they will face the Florida Gators. Neither team is home, but you pretty much could say that's a home game for Florida. Gainesville's not very far from Tampa at all.
What's the point spread?
Point spread is minus 13.
Whoa.
Minus 13. So Lagway, as a starter that played the full game this year, he's 4-0. And that was the last 4 games. The 2 games they lost was against Georgia, and Florida actually had the lead in that game when Lagway was playing. When he got hurt, they had to go to their 3rd string, and they ended up losing, but it wasn't no blowout by no means. And then he was out for the whole Texas game, and Texas rolled him. Before that 4-2 mark, they played Tennessee. They almost beat Tennessee in overtime. So Florida's definitely turning in the right direction. I think Billy Napier's job safe. There's for no opt-outs for a team like Florida that's got a lot of NIL players on it. I think that says a lot about what the kind of the mindset is at Florida now. I think it's a very positive feel. I would actually put Florida in my crazy early top 5, top 10. I think Florida's setting. I think they're going to get this turned around. For people that don't know, Florida was a powerhouse for a lot of years. You remember Florida as a kid, don't you, Charlie?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was hard to beat Florida. They were always one of the top teams in the country. Tulane is tough. Had a good defense all year. They kind of ended the year not so great. Loss against Memphis. They had a loss against Army. Both tough little teams. The formula to beat Tulane's been to run the ball, but I think Florida's really good, guys. I'll be honest with you. If there was a 64-man tournament like there is in college basketball and college football, I'd give Florida an outside shot to make a run. I think Florida's playing really good ball. I've said it on this show before how good I think DJ Lagway is. No transfers. They're going to be playing. I think Tulane will be playing too, but I'm just really high on Florida. I think it's a different level of competition than Tulane's used to. Tulane did play 2 out-of-conference games early in the year. They lost to Kansas State and Oklahoma, both of them. Facing Florida in this situation, they're going to be in a bad situation. Florida being a home game. I know 13's a lot, but I actually like Florida pretty good in this game. Florida minus 13.
You know I like Florida with you. I like Lagway. I'm a fan of Lagway. Was from the very beginning, first time I seen him. I don't like him maybe as much as you do right now.
Sure.
But I do think he's a up-and-coming star, not just a good player. He is going to be a star. But when you told me 13, that's just too many.
I get it.
If Tulane's got their whole roster, if they've got their whole arsenal, I like Tulane to cover this game. Florida, I like them going into next year. But I just think 13 is too much here. I think Tulane will battle. If they're playing all their guys, that means they're at least going to try to win the game. I think that's going to be a big thing with these bowl games. If you're going to try to lay any action on any of these bowl games that are not in the 12-team playoff, be very cautionary.
Do your research.
Please do your research, because it's been bad the last 5 years, but this is a good sign, seeing that there's 2 teams right here playing in a very early bowl game that ultimately doesn't mean anything, and they're all playing. I think that's a good sign, but I think when we look back at the whole bowl season after it's over, I think most of these guys are going to opt out of these games that are not playoff games. So
I hope you're wrong, but I think you're right.
I hope I'm wrong too. If you're right about this game right here, maybe it's a sign. I don't know. Maybe it's a sign where it's like, hey, I'm either going to transfer or I'm going to play.
That's right. They were starting to get a lot of negative PR for it, so maybe that's part of it.
I'm going to take Tulane. I do like Florida to win this game. It wouldn't surprise me if they blow them out, but if Tulane's been decent this year, and if they've got their full arsenal, I'll take them to cover the 13.
That was a game I wanted to go over. I thought it deserved at least our attention with nobody opting out. I have a lot of respect for that. I'm glad that able to touch on that game and tell everybody about it. It will be at Friday at 3:30. So if you get a chance, it'll be an early game for you to watch. And there's not a lot of games this weekend, but they kind of go in order. So you kind of got something always to watch, and they're all high-level games. So that's the fun part about it. So the first actual playoff game is going to be Friday night. The game will take place in the historic Notre Dame Stadium in South Bend, Indiana. And let me go ahead and give you a warning here, guys. We got home games in Notre Dame, Ohio State, home games in Western PA at Penn State. If you know anything about geography, those teams are all kind of in the same area. They're kind of all like not really close, but the same part of the country.
Cold part of the country.
Yeah, and there's a cold front coming through this weekend, some winds coming through. So everybody wanted cold weather for these college football games. It didn't disappoint. It's here. You're going to get cold weather. For the Notre Dame game, the high of 21, going to feel like the teens. It's at 8 o'clock at night. 40 to 50% chance for snow. Keep that in mind. Another thing to keep in mind, Indiana quarterback Curtis Rourke. He is from Ontario. It's very cold in Ontario. Notre Dame quarterback Leonard is from Alabama. Keep that in mind. It's not that hot in Alabama.
Not that cold.
Yeah, not that cold in Alabama. Thank you, Charlie. Keep that in mind. I'm not trying to say you on either way. Matter of fact, I'm kind of leaning one way. But those things matter. When it gets cold, just like it was in the Ohio State-Michigan game, even the Louisville-Kentucky game, Louisville beat us pretty bad, but their quarterback only passed for 100 yards. Cutter Boley for Kentucky had trouble passing the ball. When it gets cold, when it gets windy into the teens, the 20s, it's hard to throw the ball. It's hard to be explosive. We talked about it with the Miami Dolphins. You almost got to be like a grinded-out defensive team. It hurts. It hurts to get hit. Sometimes to catch the ball, it hurts. It's a different game, especially when you get wind involved. So both of these teams, I think, are able to handle that. They both like to run the ball. The big story with Indiana all year, and you'll hear it from everybody you talk to, Charlie, they haven't played nobody. And I agree with that. The one team they played, Ohio State, it was in bad weather, the rain. Ohio State took care of them, but that was just one game.
The Notre Dame schedule is not a whole lot better.
It wasn't, but I think it's some better. I do think it's some better, but yeah, I agree with you. It's not a whole lot better. Indiana did face Michigan. They won 20-15, but after that, they faced Northwestern. They faced Maryland. Both of those games, they were barely up going into the third and fourth quarter. That does concern me. The schedule concerns me with Indiana. I'll flat out tell you, it does. It has all year. But the one thing that I will say about Indiana, I think they're very well coached. And they passed what I call the eye test. I always say stats are for dorks. Give me the eye test every time. Stats can be deceiving. There's people that pad their stats, different competition. You just can't compare stats. It's a good tool. You just can't compare them. Give me the eye test. And as much as Indiana don't play a lot of people, they do pass my eye test. When I watch them, I think they're a good football team. And I've went back and purposely watched 2 or 3 Indiana replays against the better teams, the Michigan, Ohio State, and I watched part of one more. A couple close games in there, maybe they shouldn't have been, but the eye test is probably my number one thing I look at, and they passed that. Now, the problem with that is they're traveling to South Bend. They're playing Notre Dame. In my opinion, Notre Dame is probably the most underrated team in this tournament. I know people rate them pretty high, Charlie, but man, this might be one of the best Notre Dame teams. I always feel like Notre Dame's overrated.
They're good, but I'm sitting here looking at their schedule, Anthony. It is not any better than Indiana's.
Well, they played Army, they played Navy,
okay,
they played USC, they played A&M.
You giving them a lot of credit for Army and Navy win. Look,
I think both of them teams are like the bottom of the top 25. I do.
They are, but come on, man. What was the point spreads in those games?
Navy just rode at Tulane.
They get a little bit of credit because Navy and Army's good, but let's go back and look at the point spread in those games. I'm sure, it
was like 14 on both. It was like 14 on both.
Exactly.
Okay.
They won at USC and they beat Louisville.
And
I'm just saying it doesn't stand out as better or
beat Georgia
a lot
Tech.
Better than
Oh, it does to me.
When
I look at Indiana, it's
not Indiana's fault that
I agree
Michigan
with that.
and Washington are not good.
I agree. I'm not saying that it's bad.
They do have Michigan and Washington on their schedule, who played for the national championship last year.
Sure, they're in the tournament. I'm not saying nothing bad about I'm not saying nothing bad about the schedule. I'm just saying as I analyze it, they're on the schedule. I got to analyze those games.
I get it, but I'm just saying Indiana's schedule is weak. There is no denying it.
I think
But
it's
let's
really
not
weird.
sit here and say Notre Dame is super
it's not.
underrated when their schedule.
Underrated by, I think they're good. I just think they're good.
They are.
That same eye test I talked about with Indiana, I think they're really good. I think USC was a different team when they went to that quarterback at the end of the year. It's crazy as it sounds because I didn't feel that way all year. When you go back and look at USC, they weren't maybe as struggling as much as everybody thought. They were giving a few games away at the end, but USC played a pretty tough game. But even in that game, Notre Dame gave up a fumble early in the game, which led to like a 20-yard touchdown for USC. And they also missed the easy chip shot field goal early, back-to-back. That was a 10-point swing. And then their star running back, he got hurt in the beginning of the second half in that game. That guy's a stud. I know Prince is good, their backup, but that Love, he's a stud. I think they have a really good running game. Riley Leonard can beat you with his legs. I actually was leaning
Who's got the best run defense in the Big Ten?
Indiana.
Indiana.
They ain't played a lot either. Run defense is played based off numbers, I would say. They didn't have to play Penn State. They didn't have to play Oregon either. But I think Indiana's defense is good. I actually like Indiana. But as I'm trying to analyze it, I try to pick out the better games that they played, like the better teams they played. So the first thing that jumps off to me is Ohio State, Michigan, Maryland, maybe Northwestern. When I look at those games,
but you don't even count Washington, who was in the
I
national
forgot about that.
championship
I forgot about that.
last year.
But I watched that game. I actually bet that game. Washington, I thought played right with them. Might even outplayed them. They lost the game. Now Indiana was without their quarterback in that game. I will give them credit there. But I did think that Washington.
Matters.
It did. No doubt it does. I think they lost by 14 to them. But I thought they outplayed them in that game. I don't think Washington's nowhere near what they were last year. At that
So
point.
who you got Notre Dame, right? Who you picking?
I'm going Notre Dame. For me, it's just how they ended the year. The running game, I think the running game, when you got a 40-50% chance for snow and it fills in the teens, I think Indiana's good, but I think they're good because Cignetti, I've watched 3 replays of them. I think they're good because Cignetti keeps teams off balance with his passing and running game, and it just seems like he's always one step ahead of the defense or offense, vice versa. When he faced Ohio State, it was raining. That really took away some of Ohio State's speed, and Ohio State still took care of them. With it being snowing, feeling like that, being ultra cold, I think Notre Dame's run game, Riley Leonard's ability to beat you with his legs. And as good as Curtis Rourke is, I don't think he's a big runner, and Riley Leonard is. I just think the ground game, being at home, cold, Notre Dame's going to roll.
Yeah, Notre Dame loves to run. Riley Leonard loves to run. Very effective. One of the best running attacks probably in the country. But like I said, Indiana, I get it, the schedule, but their run defense
they're good.
It's great. Not good. It's great. Their offense is second in scoring in the country. Most efficient passing game in the country. They're second in scoring offense. They're sixth in scoring defense.
And they also run scores up too, which helps those numbers.
They do. They beat the shit out of bad teams, which is what you're supposed to do.
No doubt.
If they played those bad teams close, we'd be sitting here talking about why they played these bad teams close.
I think if you go look at the Northwestern and Maryland game, you will see that the end of the third quarter, both of those games are really tight. Now, I think both of those teams aren't very good.
Yeah, well, Notre Dame got beat by NIU.
No doubt.
So,
NIU, they did move into the top. I heard this the other day. They did move into the top 25 for just a pinch of time, but I haven't kept up with NIU, so I can't say nothing on that.
I have no clue what they did for their season, but that's not a good loss for Notre Dame. I know it was a long time ago, and Notre Dame seems to be way past that because they're playing great. Their defensive line, maybe one of the best in the country. It is one of the best in the country. It might be the best in the country.
Do you think it'll be hard to pass in that game with the weather? How hard do you think it'll be to pass? It seems like the weather across the board's kind of the same. You got a little bit of wind going on, and you got, wind chills in the teens. At Notre Dame, you got a 40-50% chance of
I don't think it's going to affect it much.
Okay.
I think now if the wind gets crazy, I think that will absolutely affect it. But the cold, unless it's 10 degrees, which I don't think it's going to be.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to affect it much. I do see this as more of a low-scoring game because I think both defenses are set up to dominate like they have been.
Sure.
I kind of lean towards Notre Dame here. They turn people over a lot. So I think if there happens to be 1 or 2 Indiana turnovers in this game, I think they could be in big trouble. I've been on Indiana all year.
They're a good team, Charlie. I hate the matchup for them. I hate the matchup for them.
That's why they are a good team, and that's why I hate that their schedule is what it is because it makes people talk about the schedule more than actually talking
Sure,
about the team.
but they love it, because, and I've talked about this on the show many times. There are teams that I think that are just as good as Indiana, if not better, setting at home because they had a harder schedule. I honestly think you're better off having an easier schedule in college football. With the way they weight games and wins and losses, I think you're better off having an easier schedule. Teams like Ole Miss could play with anybody in this tournament. They just could. Now, they could get beat by some of these teams too, no doubt, but they could. Alabama could play with anybody in this tournament, but they could lose them too.
Indiana's schedule did end up weak, but let me point this out. When the schedule was released, and Indiana's sitting here looking at their schedule before the season started.
Right.
And they're looking at the second half of their schedule that says Nebraska, which I'm talking before the season.
Sure.
Nebraska's up and coming.
No doubt,
now,
Charlie.
they beat the shit out of Nebraska.
I
but
agree
I'm
with what you're saying.
They're looking at Nebraska, Washington, who was just in the national championship, at Michigan State, which Michigan State wasn't that great, but at Michigan State is not an easy game. Versus Michigan, just won the national championship, and at Ohio State.
I agree with you.
So when you're looking at that before, now look, I know how it played out, but when you're looking at that schedule before the season started, Kignetti's probably thinking, "Holy shit! Like we've got a crazy run here at the end of this year." Now it played out to where Washington wasn't that good, Michigan wasn't that good, and they beat the hell out of Nebraska. So it just worked out in Indiana's favor, but it's not their fault.
You're here and you are what you are. Matter of fact, like I've told you, I think it's an advantage. You get to rest players. You don't get beat up as much. I think tough schedules are undervalued with the way they rank. It looks like wins and losses. That goes back to the Alabama SMU argument I had. The schedule is not going to win or lose the game for either team. For me, it's not even so much against Indiana. When I watched that video, Charlie, when I went through it, I came away, I've told you, even after I watched it, I was leaning Indiana for a second. I came away really impressed with Indiana, and I already knew that. I'd kind of, I liked Indiana. They're well coached. They're a good team. But for me, it's a matchup. Dude, I think Notre Dame might be able to make a run to the national title with the bottom half of the bracket. I tell you, I'm really high on Notre Dame. And going into South Bend, the cold weather, I think the weather plays right into their hands. A running quarterback, which I do think is going to be big in cold weather. I just like what they got, a two-headed monster at running back. I think they're physical. I think they're nasty. And I do think Indiana has a nice little defense. But I think Notre Dame, I don't know what the rankings are, numbers are, but I think Notre Dame has got a really nasty run defense. Whatever you think about Army and Navy, but they're both really good running football teams. I mean, Army has a top 3 offensive line in the country. They're up for that offensive line award, voted on by the players that former.
Oh, Notre Dame can stuff the run. And in Indiana's loss, they didn't run the ball well.
Yeah,
they did not run the ball well. So
if Indiana's going to be a player in this game, Charlie, I've watched them 3 times. Signetti's all about keeping teams off balance.
They're very balanced.
Yes, that's his whole game.
What they need to do is go at him right in the air early.
Well, that's his whole game.
They need to go at him in the air early. And look, I'm gonna be honest here. I think Notre Dame wins this game. I hate to say it because I like Indiana. I'm going to be cheering for Indiana. I am going to take Indiana on this pick, though, +7 or +7.5,
okay,
whatever it is. I'm going to take Indiana. I do think Notre Dame probably wins, but somebody buy me an Indiana shirt. I'll put it on.
Who's your daddy?
I'm serious. I don't know what it is because Kentucky fans are typically supposed to hate Indiana. And when it comes to basketball, I do, even though Indiana basketball is nothing. It's not like they matter to me. But I like this Indiana football team. I like them, and I'm going to be cheering for them. I do think Notre Dame wins, but I think it's close. I think Kignetti figures out a way to keep it close. They've got a solid offense and defense. I'm just going to take Indiana +7.
Yeah. I will say you better get used to seeing them good because they were able to contract up Signetti for years to come. Sounds like they got a lot of NIL money. They got some big donors. I think Indiana's here to stay. Money talks, bullshit walks in today's college football world. They sound like they got money down there from things I've read.
All right, well, we're splitting that one.
All right.
On to the next one.
On to the next one. So as you go to bed Friday and you're digesting the Indiana Notre Dame game, hope it's a good one. Saturday morning, you will wake up to traditional college football time slots. And Saturday morning, the first game that will get us started, it will be in Western PA. It will be the SMU Mustangs versus the Penn State Nittany Lions.
In the snow game.
Snow game.
They say it will be snowing.
This will be a 12 o'clock kickoff, but we are still mid to upper 20s with wind chills in the 10s and teens.
Alar's coming back. Did you
Yep.
see it?
Yep. No, I did.
He announced he's coming back.
Yeah, he did. And I like the guy. I think he's underrated. We're going to have 10 to 15 mile an hour winds with gusts of up to 25 miles an hour. So it's cold, it's windy. Think Ohio State, Michigan this year. Think for those that watched the Louisville, Kentucky game, just bitter conditions. Maybe even a little colder than those games. The gusts to be about the same, but a little bit colder. Look, I like SMU. I think SMU is a good team. The argument I had with them not being in over Alabama was nothing against SMU as a team. I actually think they outplayed Clemson in that game. They played them. I like their quarterback. I sent that article to you this week. That was on ESPN. It pretty much was saying SMU's back, and they got a lot of billionaires behind them. So they bought
got all the money behind them.
Yeah, it's all the oil money in Dallas. They say. If for those of you that have watched it, you remember the 30 for 30, Charlie?
Yep.
That was on ESPN some years back. It was on the SMU. They called it Pony Express. They were cheating big as hell. Eric Dickerson, wasn't it?
I think so.
They were cheating. They were throwing money at it. This is back in the 80s when cheating was illegal, Charlie.
They hammered them with the death
penalty. They did. They got them.
All their scholarships and TV rights and all types of shit.
But now, in 2024, cheating is popular. Cheating ain't cheating no more.
No.
You pay to play now. It's pay to play. And SMU's
encouraged.
That's right. SMU's got a lot of money. They brought this team. That's the great thing about the NIL. If you have a rough year, you can get it right in 1 year. Look at Indiana. Look at SMU. I'm hoping it's that way for Kentucky. You get rid of your bad contracts, you get some new contracts in. And that's what they are. They're contracts. I wish they were contracts. Then you could hold them accountable a little bit. So SMU will face Penn State. I just got done going up to the Big Ten Championship and watching Penn State play Oregon. I thought they outplayed Oregon. They outgained them by 100 yards. A couple big things happened to Penn State, or I think they win that game. The Ohio State game, it was kind of an even played game. Both teams had a few mistakes that were really costly. But when you go back and you really did, they beat Washington 35-6, they dominated them. They dominated the second half of the USC game. They were down. They had some mistakes against USC, and they dominated the second half. They dominated Maryland 44-7. Penn State's usually not that dominating team, but they've kind of been dominating this year. I like this Penn State team, and I like them a lot in cold weather. They got probably one of the best defensive lines and linebacker cores in college football. Got good safeties. Their corners are so-so. SMU's got that running quarterback that's really good, but SMU, some of these players maybe have never played in the cold, Charlie. Being where they are in Texas, I would say a lot of their players have never played in a cold weather game ever. At least in the NFL, some of those guys have experienced cold weather from time to time. This SMU, some of these players have never played. I would say these players from Penn State, a lot of these boys grew up in Pennsylvania, in the surrounding areas. They have played in cold weather games. Penn State likes to hammer the ball, run the ball. They're a physical team. I think they're going to hurt SMU. The way they hit, when I watched them play Oregon's speed got to them a little bit, but Oregon's crazy fast. That's what all Oregon had against them. Anytime they tried to be, Penn State was physical with them. They were trying to hurt them. Even that play where an Oregon guy jumped over him, it's because that Penn State guy was trying to light him up. And with the weather the way that it is, Charlie, with the wind gust, I'm just not sure if SMU could be a physical running team like that. I think they're a good running team. I think they're a good offense. That kind of weather, I just think benefits a really physical team, and I think that's what Penn State is. I actually liked SMU if they were playing in a dome matchup. I think I would take the 8.5 points, but in this setup, I could see Penn State I kind of like SMU. But I'm going to go with the minus the 8.5 and take Penn State.
Penn State averages 5 yards a carry. That's trouble for SMU. SMU turns the ball over a lot.
That's probably been their Achilles heel.
They had 2 against Clemson. This game, double-digit win, I think is going to be pretty easy here for Penn State. At home, Alar's coming back. The defensive line is just crazy good. They don't make a lot of mistakes as a team overall. They don't get a lot of penalties. I think the turnovers for SMU is going to be crucial, especially in a snowy, nasty game, cold game. Like you said, you hit hard, That ball going to come out a little more. I don't think that SMU's even played anything close to a game like this with a team that is big, powerful, and just probably in the trenches, they're going to probably dominate.
Well, they just played Clemson, and they really outplayed Clemson. I agree.
Clemson ain't on Penn State's level.
Not this
year.
When
it comes to the defensive line, offensive line, in the trenches, Penn State's probably top 5 in both of those categories. I know for a fact defensive line they are.
They passed the eye test. When Penn State, they look nasty when they play.
And I'm just going off the eye test because I don't know the stats.
Right.
I really don't know where their offensive line ranks, but I know they're good. And I know they're big and powerful, and they're gonna lean on those guys. If I am SMU, I'm doing everything I can to make Alar beat me with his arm.
Yeah.
I just don't know if they're going to be able to do it. I don't think that they're going to be able to control the tempo in the game. I think Penn State will have a grasp on the tempo. It'll just overpower SMU in the long run. I see this being a double-digit win easy. I got Penn State.
I do think Drew Aller can beat you with his arm. I do. I think he's a good quarterback.
I'm not saying he can't. I'm just saying if your best chance is to make him do that.
But with the weather conditions, does that take it away? Their tight end's a stud, best tight end in the country. Everybody agrees with that. Warren.
Again, I don't think the weather will be – even if it's snowing.
You don't think that weather affect the game?
I do. No, I do. I'm not saying it won't affect it. I'm just saying I don't think that the offenses will be completely inept because of it.
Sure.
I think they'll still be able to throw the ball. I think they'll still be able to do some stuff. The wind.
Wind's what I'm worried about.
Yeah,
yes,
the wind.
The combo of the cold and the wind together.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, look, if it's snowing real hard, that's going to affect it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not. But I think the wind is way more – that affects the game more than the snow. The temperature can affect it if it gets really low.
Wind chills in the 10s. SMU's never seen that 10-degree weather. They can't. How do you even prepare for that right now? I don't think you can. Just come in with the mindset that you're not going to let it beat you. I mean, that's all you can do. But cold weather football, man, it's different. It's just, and don't mean just 30, 40 degrees. These wind chills are in the 10s. This is the kind of games where you should see people breathing and stuff.
Yeah, I hope to see these. This is one other thing I was kind of thinking about. I do hope to see, and look, they should be. These are playoff games, but I hope that these student sections are full because if you look at this, most of these kids are getting out of school on Thursday or Friday for the Christmas break. A lot of them are going home. I hope they're staying for 1 or 2 more days to stay for this game.
Ticket prices the way they are, I would expect the rowdy fans, anybody that's willing to pay that much money.
Yeah, and I think it should be. You know, this is the first round of the new playoff. It shouldn't be an issue, but it does kind of worry me just a little bit because, you know, a lot of these kids get off and they're planning on going back home wherever it is they're from. So hopefully they set it up to where they stay for a day or two to at least go to the game. So I don't think it'll be an issue, though.
If I was a Penn State fan and I was a student there, even if I had plans to go home, I would have delayed it.
I would too.
I would have
no way
delayed it.
I'd miss it.
No way. So I would take SMU if it was on a indoor type situation. I do think SMU's better than what people think they are. In these situations, Penn State being who they are, how they like to play, it plays right into their hands. And I might have took Penn State even on a normal condition. So Penn State minus the 8.5. We're both on the same page there, Charlie. 2 more to go. This is the only warm game of the weekend. They will be playing. It's not warm. It's going to be in the mid-40s.
I seen 60.
Okay. Did you?
Yeah,
Okay.
I seen it was going to be nice.
All right, nice. Clemson will travel to Austin and face the Texas Longhorns.
First ever meeting between these two teams. Know that?
No, I did not.
First
No, I
time
did
they've
not.
ever met.
No, it's so they got good weather, so that will not be a factor. I don't think Clemson belongs here. I like Clemson. I like Dabo. I've said it on the show numerous times. I think Texas, I think they're really good. I don't care like what just happened against Georgia. Georgia's got their number right now. There's no doubt. But I'll go into that in a second. Texas's defense is nasty. Clemson might not be able to score the ball against their defense. They just might not. And I think that's the only way that Clemson can beat them is if Texas beats themselves. I really think that's the only way they beat them.
Guess what?
They could.
They can do that.
No,
you know how many turnovers they got in the last 3 games?
Yeah.
7.
I'm sure.
You know who's got 25 takeaways this year? Clemson.
Yep. I'm not saying you're wrong. For me, the SMU outplayed Clemson. South Carolina outplayed Clemson. That's the last 2 games. before that, their away game. Both of those games were at home, keep in mind. South Carolina was at home. SMU was right in their own little backyard, right there in Atlanta. No, it was in Carolina, but it was really close to Clemson versus where SMU was. So there were 2 home games. Their last away game, they played Pitt. They only won 24-20. Pitt outgained them by 100 yards. And Pitt lost the turnover battle 1-2. That was their last away game. And this will be an away game for them. So they got rolled by Louisville. They got rolled by Georgia. I like Clemson. I like who Dabo is. I like the program. I like everything about them. But I do not think they belong in this college football playoff right now. And Texas has been really good. I still go back to when they played Florida like 4 games ago. I know Lagway wasn't there, but I'm talking about how explosive they were on offense. I think they were halfway explosive. What Georgia, the way you defend Texas is you bend, don't break, and you try to get them inside the 20, and you try to slow them down. That's what Georgia has been able to do against them. They outplayed Georgia pretty good.
Yeah, they had like 7 chances in the red zone and came up with like 3 points or something stupid.
They did. Texas.
They also had a lead.
Well, they did.
They also had a lead in the second half when a backup quarterback comes in. How do they not finish that game out?
But Texas ain't because
I'm gonna tell you why. Because their offense has went to the toilet the last about 4 weeks.
Well, let me tell you, they're the only team to dominate Michigan this year. Only team. Even Oregon couldn't dominate Michigan. They dominate. I don't think Michigan's good, but I do think they got a really good defense. And
Texas offense has disappeared.
They ain't disappeared.
Yes, it has.
They get stayed. Okay, well, let me go over it. What I got here. Okay, first drive of the game, they get inside the 40. It was an interception. The second time they got the ball, they got a field goal. And what got them behind the chains? They were actually going to score. They had an offensive pass interference that was called. So they had to settle for a field goal there. The next drive,
What's that mean? You got a penalty.
I agree. I'm just saying, it wasn't.
That's a failed red zone.
I agree. I agree.
A failed red zone
but it wasn't. They just got shut down. They got set back 15 yards, got them behind the chains. The next one was a field goal. They got inside the 24. They got sacked.
Another missed opportunity.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying they're moving the ball down inside the 20-yard line against the best defense in the country, or one of the best defenses in the country.
And their red zone offense is terrible.
And then the next one, the next time they got down there, same half, the 4th possession, they had an interception, a field goal. Both times got set behind the chains. The next one they got inside the 19 had a missed field goal.
It sounds to me like a ton of missed opportunities.
Hold on. What stopped them on inside the 19 was a holding call. Once again, putting them behind the chains. A lot of things went against them, but they're getting down. To me, when I analyze games, if you're getting down there,
so you just say, when you analyze a game, you say there was a pass interference call and they had to settle for 3.
Well, it got them behind the chains. I'm not saying it's whatever, but as I'm analyzing it, their offense was running efficiently to get them down there. It was run them defensive.
So you don't take nothing away from an offense that can get to the 25.
No. But they're playing against Georgia's defense.
You know what they need to do?
What's that?
Bench Ewers and put best player in college football in.
I think you're going to see. I think Texas is really good.
I think you're going to see if they struggle at halftime and if it's close at halftime and Ewers is playing anywhere near just average, they're going to make that change.
I got you. It's to do that against Georgia, and Georgia's got a nasty defense, and moving the ball down the field on them like that, they're going to have a field day with Clemson. Clemson's overrated. They shouldn't be there. They will destroy Clemson. They will cover that 12 easy. Clemson won't be able to score the ball on Texas. Texas defense is absolutely – them and Georgia's probably 2 of the better ones. Ohio State's really good, but they will make Clemson so one-dimensional. Klubnik will not be able to – Texas has the best pass defense in college football. Malfa's been hurt. He hasn't been able to play good. Clemson struggles to get offense anyways. SMU gave them all their points that they had. Texas better beat themselves because they will not be able to score. Clemson won't be able to score on Texas. I like them minus the points.
The key to Clemson getting this win is to stop the run. Clemson has not been great at stopping the run. Texas runs the ball very well.
Texas can pass the ball.
They haven't been very efficient with it in the last month.
Well, they've been running the ball a lot here lately, trying to develop their running game.
They got a good running game, and that's what I'm telling you right here.
You pass the ball like you've
stopped the run.
Sure, they had almost 400 yards of passing against Georgia. Georgia's got a hell of a defense. Against Florida, they rode all over them passing the ball. They did the same to Michigan, which is a really good defensive team. Them are 3 really good. You got Michigan's defense, which has Will Johnson at corner. Clemson's had a great defense all year. You got Georgia's defense, one of the best defenses in the country that just threw for almost 400 yards, and Florida and took care of them. Dude, against Kentucky, dude, they were on cruise control. I watched the game. They were on cruise control. They ran the ball the whole second half. That's all they did. They're working on something bigger. Georgia got their number. There was a lot of times they drove the ball down there. Yeah, they missed them. They missed them, but there was some stuff that went on. However you look at that, I know we disagree a little bit on that. Clemson's nowhere near that. Texas defense will shut them down.
I don't think Clemson's anywhere near the team that Texas is, but I do think that Texas has been underperforming in the last month. I just do. I've watched them play. I've bet on them. I've seen it. You want to talk about eye test? I've been watching Texas. I want Texas to be good. I almost want to be on Texas.
Which game would you feel like they underperformed in? I'll tell you the game.
I'm just talking about the offense. I'm just talking about the offense. What it was early in the year compared to what it is now is not the same.
I do think when you're playing really good defense, Charlie, like when you're playing, maybe your offense ain't what you want.
I'm not talking about their defense.
I know, but I think you play conservative offense when you have a really good defense. Because I watched the A&M game, and I'm telling you, they beat A&M by 10. But A&M, and that was at A&M. The fans were crazy. A&M never had a chance, dude. They were 20-something points better than them, but they just didn't take no chances. Like they knew A&M couldn't score on them.
The keys to the game, I think, for Clemson is to stop the run. I think if they can stop the run and force the pass, I think they can have a chance. For Texas, the key to the game for them is to not turn the ball over.
Sure. Yeah.
Do not turn the ball. Maybe one, but if we turn around and Texas has 2 or 3 turnovers in this game, they might get beat.
I'm not sure Clemson can beat them without turning over the ball.
Texas has turned it over a lot recently. A lot over the year, but 7 turnovers in the last 3. Clemson's defense is one of the best in the country at taking it away. Their turnover margin's plus 16, 25 takeaways this year. I just think if Clemson can stop the run and turn them over once or twice, I think the plus 12 is easy. I do think Texas is a much better team. I actually agree that Clemson probably does not deserve to even be in this tournament. But with the way it's set up, they got there. They're there now. And I know one thing. Dabo's been there before.
He's the better coach.
I can trust him to at least know what's going on and have his team prepared to play here. 12 points I just think is too much. Might turn around next week and see that they got blasted. And I won't even be mad because I kind of like Texas this year. I just kind of been off of them the last few weeks. I do think there is a serious chance here that if this game is close at halftime and Ewers is not playing good, I do think there's a chance that we see Jalen Hurts getting pulled for Tua.
Yeah, I get it. I will say this, where Texas has struggled against Georgia was inside the red zone. I will say that I think a guy like Manning he's a better red zone quarterback because he can use his legs. Using your legs is what makes you a really good, red zone quarterback is the ability to bring something else to the table. That's how Georgia's quarterback, when Beck, they had like 50 yards of total offense in the first half. He come out and got that touchdown in the second half. The backup did. The thing he did, Beck didn't do. He was able to use his legs. And
I like Ewers, man. I've been talking about him for 2 years. I like him. But I'm not going to lie. If I'm being all the way honest with myself, I do think he's a little bit overrated. I think
there's times
he's
leveled
out.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I really am not saying you're wrong. I see what you see with that. Then there's times he makes great passes. I do think I've kept up with Texas a lot. They have been trying to work on their run game for like the past 5 games. If I thought they had a really good run game, they could just run the ball and play defense. That's scary. That's the part of Texas that scares me. I don't
kind of see them like Indiana, very balanced, very just balanced team offensively. Maybe Ewers throws 5 touchdowns and they demolish Clemson, and I won't be mad about it. But I just think the points are too much.
As crazy as it sounds, Clemson's usually really good at stopping the run. This year, they're kind of claimed now they play in the ACC, so don't get me started there. But their claim to fame has been corners being really good. And their defensive tackles and linebackers have been a little bit weaker than normal. It's because they've been a little bit opposite.
And they have, like I said, they've struggled to stop the run. So that's why I kind of think that that's a key to them is because they have not done well against the run this year.
Right.
Which usually for Dabo, if you go back and look, is probably one of his strong suits. The defensive line.
Always has been, yeah.
Clemson's always got a really strong defensive line. I do think that's a key for Clemson is just to try to limit Texas on the ground and make them go to the air a little bit more. So it should be a great game. I'm probably going to be cheering for Texas.
I got you.
I like Texas.
For me, this is my best bet of the weekend. This is my best bet of the weekend. It's probably going to be my best bet of the whole playoff. I like Texas minus the 12. I think Clemson will have trouble. If Clemson can hang with them, I think it's because, and I could be wrong, but I think it'll be because Texas beats theirself.
Oh, yeah.
I think Clemson will have a lot of trouble.
Don't have 2 turnovers in the first half.
Yeah, I think
Texas has two turnovers in the first half. They're going to have trouble covering.
Texas DBs. To me, the big problem with Klubnik is he don't go down the field well. And I can see Texas DBs with how good they are against the pass. I can see them cheating up, not having no respect, and taking away any running game Clemson has. I do not think Clemson will be able to stretch the field against them, and I think it's going to cause the Texas DBs to creep up, the linebackers to cheat. Maybe they can get something on play action that way, but I think if Texas does get popped that way, they'll just go back into their normal set. But if they're able to play downhill like that, they might get them a couple defensive touchdowns against Clemson. I like them.
All right, let's hit this last one.
All right, that was fun. Last game. It's going to be a cold one.
Probably be the best one, too.
Yep, I agree.
I say that. We'll probably be completely wrong.
That's right. We got 10 to 15 mile an hour winds, temperatures in the 20s.
Snow Friday night. It's not supposed to be snowing during this game, but it is supposed to snow the night before. So there'll probably be snow. I'm sure they'll have it off the field, but it's gonna be snowy.
We got a 8 o'clock kickoff. The Volunteers of Tennessee will travel to Ohio State. Ohio State is minus 7.5. For me, it starts with the weather. This plays right into Tennessee hands. And I'm not saying poor Ohio State, but man, I just don't feel like none of their big games, they've had the perfect situation. The perfect situation, I mean, good weather, so those receivers can use their speed, and Ohio State's gets to use their speed, or being at home. Their biggest games of the year, they got beat by Michigan. It was windy and cold. Against Indiana, it was rainy and windy. Against Penn State, they were on the road. Against Oregon, they were on the road. Both Penn State and Oregon was very hostile environments. The biggest thing about playing in the rain and wind, it's hard to pass. And then when you're in the rain, it's hard to accelerate. It's hard to really, the speed is not, the weather is the equalizer there. With Ohio State, they got the great receivers. They're super fast receivers. Their DBs are fast. And with the rain games, I feel like it takes a lot of that speed away. And it's more about traction at that point. So Ohio State hasn't had the perfect game where they have home field advantage and good weather to use their elite athletes. They're not going to have it here either. Tennessee is one of the better running teams in the country. I think, everybody watched the Heisman. Everybody's seen, Travis Hunter win it. Ashton Genty gets second. I joke with my son all the time, but I'm serious. The Samson guy from Tennessee, I think, is probably the best running back in the country. He's good. He's really good. Tennessee's not the typical Josh Heupel air it out team. They're a running football team. Now, Nico, he can beat you with his arm. He's got better. He had kind of that. He started off hot against the weaker teams and got kind of cold and got kind of better. But Tennessee, they can play. Tennessee is a really good home team. They've had a few struggles on the road. But Tennessee's a tough team. They run the ball, and they got a good defense. But for me, I'm so high on Ohio State, so high on them. But I think it's the same weather they faced when they faced Michigan and really hurt their passing game. I think it plays right into Tennessee's favor. Tennessee loves to run the ball. I hate making this pick because I thought I was going to pick Ohio State the whole time. But I do think the weather affects this game a lot, Charlie. I just do. Ohio State loves to pass the ball using Jeremiah Smith and the other guy they got, Bokafer. Both of those guys, two of the best receivers in the country. They're fast. Now, their defense is good. So I'll be honest with you. I like the under in this game. I can already tell you. I think it's going to be a running football game. The wind and the temperatures, it's going to take a lot of the pass away, and I just think that favors Tennessee. But I will say, I do think Ohio State has a really good defense.
Number one scoring defense, number one total defense, number one red zone defense.
It is. I could see them really shutting Tennessee down. But with the wind and cold, I could see Tennessee shutting them down. Tennessee's got a good defense, too. I like the under in this game a lot. I don't even care what the number is. But I'm going to go with Tennessee plus the 7.5 points. I just weather related, or I know I'd go Ohio State the other way, but I like Tennessee with the points because I just think they got a lot better running game.
Speaking of over-unders, I love the I love the under in the Indiana Notre Dame game, and I love this under too.
Yeah.
Love it. Like we just highlighted, Ohio State's defense is unreal. But here's my question about Ohio State, Anthony. Are they a confident team? Do they have confidence in themselves to know how good they really are?
I think the rest of the country don't, but I think they do.
I almost think the country's bought in. It seems to me like they haven't bought in. It seems like they're on cruise control or something.
I think there's just one game that gets everybody, and it's the Michigan game. A lot of it was weather, and a lot of it was missed opportunities. But some teams have those games, and they are able to win them. Oregon had one against Wisconsin. Some teams have them, and they just had their against their biggest rival. And it's here recently. It's on our minds. But it was really windy, and it was really cold that day. And they missed opportunities. And Michigan was getting better at the end of the year, but still, they shouldn't have beat Ohio State.
Tennessee's got the 6th best defense in the country. So this is a battle here.
Tennessee's defense is good.
Yeah, 8th best run defense in the country and 6th best overall. Tennessee was actually in the first ever BCS championship game in 1998 with Peyton and the boys.
Peyton.
They have not been in a playoff since the very first ever BCS championship game.
I heard a lot of Tennessee fans are trying to get in the game. So almost like when Kentucky takes over stadiums in basketball, I heard Tennessee's trying to – they won't be able to do it at Ohio State, but I hear they're trying to bring a lot of fans.
And then interesting here, just take a guess. Ohio State has played 55 bowl games. What do you think the record is?
55?
Yep.
I'm going to say they're a 70% team.
27-28.
Wow, 50%.
Surprising, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
That is very surprising.
But I bet you they're playing in the better ones, though.
I'm sure
they're playing in the better ones.
Yeah, I would have bet that Ohio State had a winning bowl record. Mm-hmm. 27-28, 2-4 while Ryan Day is there. To me, I think this team is maybe the best team in the country, maybe the best roster overall. I just don't know if they have the confidence in themselves. It seems like something's up, and I think that last loss is literally the worst thing that could have happened to them. They lose to the rival again. Rival's not even that good this year, and now they got to sit on it for how long? 2-3 weeks?
They might get them focused, though, like us against the
That's
world.
a long time to sit on it, dude.
But, maybe it's a deal where it's us against the world. I want to show everybody right here.
Half the Ohio State fans probably trying to run Ryan Day out in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, they're stupid.
I know. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I guarantee it.
You're right. You know what kills me about that is they act like they're the only ones spending. I heard this on the Paul Feinbaum show, however you say it. They act like they're the only ones spending money. A caller called in and said, yeah, we spend all this money and then we go get beat by Oregon. Well, Oregon's spending all the money too.
Oregon's spending the shitload
It's
of money.
Michigan spending the money. Penn State's spending the money. People are spending the money. You ain't the only one spending money. I get it. Your coach makes X amount. But guess what? I hear that with Stoops. Stoops is making X amount. Well, guess what? So is everybody else. You act like you're the only one spending money. You're not. Everybody else is trying to win too. It's just the price of poker's got too expensive. I will give you a quick thing on Tennessee I seen, Charlie. They played Vandy last week or a couple weeks ago, and I love Tennessee in that game. I think they were -10. Early in that game, Vandy was up 14-0, and we was worried. But I was confident because they got one of their touchdowns off a fumble, like on the 20-yard line, and they were able to score a couple plays. First play of the game, Vandy returned a kickoff for a touchdown, up 7-0. Tennessee gets the ball. Second play from offensive play in the game, they fumbled it. 2 plays later, Vandy scores. They only had to go 20 yards. So they were down 14-0. And then there was a fumble later in the game that gave Vandy 3 there. So besides that, Tennessee pretty much shut Vandy down outside of those points right there. Now the game, I think they ended up winning by like 13 or 15. But those points right there were really some of the only points they got. Tennessee was pretty hot. They'd beat Alabama in a tough game. Then they lost that one to Georgia that was on the road. But a lot of people think they played right with or maybe slightly outplayed Georgia in that game. So Tennessee, keep an eye on that. That's just some little stuff I was looking at.
Well, I know I threw out the stat a couple episodes ago about Ohio State only giving up, I think, 20 points like 2 times in the last 2 years.
Their defense is good.
Tennessee, since 2019, is 0-14. 0-14 when they score less than 20. There's only been 2 teams
I like that stat.
score more than 20 on Ohio State in the last 2 years.
I do not like my Tennessee. I mean, I do not love my Tennessee pick here. I could almost be talked off from it. My biggest thing for it is the weather.
They need to get Dylan Sampson and Dante Thornton, the receiver that they got. He's a beast too.
Mm-hmm.
They need to get those 2 guys going early. I'm taking Tennessee in the points. I am.
Do you love it a lot or just like it a little bit? Me neither.
I don't love it.
I don't either.
I'm completely with you. I thought I was going to be all over Ohio State in this game. I really did.
Does the weather affect your opinion or no?
The weather does affect it a little bit.
It affects mine a lot. I think it plays right into what Tennessee wants. I think it's the same weather they face Michigan against.
I just think Ohio State has been too conservative. They've been too conservative. They have got to crank up their offense early and often. Their offensive line is completely beat up, though. They've lost 2 big-time starters for the year. One was their center, and I think the other one was their tackle.
You know, they act like they replaced them decent, though.
Well,
like,
I'm sure they did. They're Ohio State. But I'm just saying, those were 2 big losses.
No, it was.
One was in practice right before the Michigan game. So
the other one was against Oregon, the Oregon game.
Yeah, so, I mean, one of them is just 2 weeks ago. So they're trying to work new guys in there. My main thing with Ohio State, I think they've got the best roster. You know, I've said Georgia
They got the best roster.
I think
Ohio
Ohio State's got the best roster.
They do.
I think Ohio State should probably win the national championship. But I don't think that they're showing enough confidence in themselves. They need to crank up the offense and jump on Tennessee quick. If they don't and they let them keep it close, I like Tennessee and maybe even to win the game and upset them. If this game's close, late, assholes are puckering.
That's right.
The pressure will be all on Ohio State
No doubt.
late in this game if it's close at home.
Sure.
It'll be bad.
I think the pressure, I will say this, though, and I'm not saying you're wrong about that, but I do think the pressure will be on both teams. This is playoff football.
Well, it is, but I'm just saying.
I get what you're saying.
We get to late in the third quarter, early fourth quarter, and this is a 3-point game, tie game, 4-point game. Ohio State, the pressure is on them big time.
No doubt.
And Ryan Day will be feeling it personally.
Sure.
I guarantee it.
I do think Ohio State will win the game. I'll take Tennessee in the points. I do think Tennessee could win it, though.
What is the points? Is it 7 or 7.5?
7.5. I will say this. To me, the weather is a big deal. If they get there Saturday and the weather's not bad, I would take Ohio State.
It's going to be cold. It's going to be cold.
The wind.
It's going to be 8 o'clock at night. It's going to be cold.
The wind's the big thing for me. Talking about, decent wind in that game. Ohio State's, they're a decent running team. I don't think they're a great running team like they've been before.
I just think we're in for some close games, man.
Yeah, I'm with
these ones with the, if you see from my picks, I've took the points in all, and let's see, I took the points in all of them except Penn State.
Yeah.
Penn State's the only one that I like to win big, and I think the other ones are going to be close games. I think we're in for a treat. I can't wait. We're trying to find something to do on Saturday, maybe go watch the game somewhere.
No doubt.
I can't wait. It's going to be fun. I need an Indiana jersey for Friday night.
I only love one of the games, and that's Texas. I only love one game.
We're only together on Penn State and Tennessee, so I guess that's
that's easy enough.
I guess that's our 2-game parlay.
Yep.
Check back on Saturday morning, Friday night, Saturday morning, Facebook, TikTok pages. If we somehow flip our script on any of these games, we'll let you know.
The weather will play a big determining factor, how I feel going into the games. I think the weather, for me in football, especially a lot of these college kids, depending on what part of the country they're coming from, they've never faced cold weather. To me, it's a huge factor. I think the weather, even in the NFL, changes the dynamics of a game. You can't air it out as much. Everything hurts a little more.
So 2-game parlay, Penn State and Tennessee. Since we ain't got much here, I'm gonna go ahead and say I'm doing a 2-game parlay with the unders. Okay. I'm taking the under in the Notre Dame Indiana game and the under in the Ohio State Tennessee game. I'm gonna parlay those together. I really do like the unders in those 2 games. I'm gonna be honest, I don't even know what the unders are. Don't even know what the numbers are, but I like the unders in both.
Sure. I like the under in the Tennessee Ohio State game. As you're moving on, Charlie, I'm going to look at the over-unders real quick.
Yeah, I don't even know what they are.
I'm just curious.
I just think, Ohio State and Tennessee got 2 of the best defenses in the country. I think they're both going to lean on those defenses, and that'll be low scoring. If I had to guess, I'm going to just guess it. Tennessee, Ohio State, I'll probably be way off here. Over under, it can't be more than 44.
45 and a half. 45 and a
All
half.
right, that was pretty good.
Texas Clemson, it's 51 and a half. You want to guess the SMU Penn State over under?
Nope. I want to guess the Indiana Notre Dame one.
54 and a half on the SMU Penn State.
Yeah, that one had to be the highest. Shoot, I almost like the under in that. They say it's going to be snowing in that game, but who knows?
SMU could turn the ball over a bunch on that game and give easy points.
I'd say Indiana Notre Dame's probably got to be somewhere around the other one. So I'm just going to guess the same number with 44.
51 and a half.
51?
51 and a half. Yeah.
Oh, I'm all over that under. I love that under.
I guess they're counting on.
Dude, I like that. I like that under a lot.
I guess they're counting on Notre Dame. I mean, the biggest advantage I see is Notre Dame's offense against Indiana's defense, but that ain't like a huge. I don't know.
Better watch out. Indiana's defense, it ain't no joke.
It ain't bad. I agree.
All right, let's move on to the NFL. We have ran a little bit long here, but it's all good.
It's college football.
Holidays coming up. Nobody's got nothing to do. Listen to a little bit longer episode. No big deal. Little bit of recap real quick before we get into the games. Last week, Rams Thursday night win an ugly, ugly rain game, 12-6 over San Francisco. Kansas City wins again. Covered the spread. Didn't make it too interesting. Got the win. I think Jameis sucked it up big time.
That dude throws more interceptions. I like him, but he throws a lot of interceptions.
He does.
He takes chances. He takes a lot of chances.
I've seen the thing says he keeps both teams in the game.
That's right.
Washington outlasts the Saints. While we're on that real quick, Anthony, did you see it?
Yep, I've seen it.
Saints run a play. I think it's 20-19. Is it 20-19? I can't even remember I don't know what the score was. I don't know what the situation was. It was the end of the game. Saints were losing. They run a play. They complete a pass on like the 2 or 3 yard line, going in, about to score. The guy goes down with something like
9 seconds.
9 seconds. And
the defensive player actually – go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. The clock stopped.
The official stopped the clock.
Was it the official?
No, it was the official. I've looked all up. He stopped it dead or something like that.
I mean, did he wave his hands to stop it? Because, I mean, he's not controlling the clock.
No, he did.
Somebody controlling the clock.
He did. He waved his stop.
So it was just a completed pass down at the 3 yard line. No timeouts left for New Orleans. So typically in an NFL game, the clock just runs. They don't stop the clock to reset the ball. They don't do that. Well, they did. They stopped the clock for, it seemed to be maybe 4 to 5 seconds.
They ran a clock on it, and they ended up spiking the ball with 1 second to go that was left. They were able to get, they had to get all the way up there. They had to get players off and get the ball spiked. They had to do all that, and there wouldn't have been time.
So ultimately, New Orleans still ended up losing the game.
They went for 2. They got a touchdown. They got a touchdown out of it.
I don't know. I don't know if this is on the refs. I don't know if it's on the clock operator. Who is the clock operator? Are these NFL employees? Are they employees by the Saints? Or where were they at?
I don't know.
Where were they at? Washington or the Saints? I don't even know where they were at.
Point spread was 7, and they were up by 7.
But that would be my question. Who runs these clocks? Are they hired by the teams? Are they hired by the NFL? Anthony says he thinks that the refs called for the clock to be stopped. I didn't see that. I'm not saying that's wrong, but I didn't see that.
But why would he do that? Even if that's what he did, he knows the ball don't get stopped there. Why would he stop? He's an NFL ref. Why would he stop the clock?
Yeah, I don't know. A little bit sketchy. I'm not sure if the NFL's answered for that yet, but there was a little bit of issue there, and they're going to have to get it figured out. All it does is just creates more speculation and more. I mean, people are already conspiracy theorists. So when they see stuff like this happen, it's going to even get worse. So somebody's going to have to get a handle on it.
Yeah, the official stopped it. The side judge, Jim Quirk, ran to the ball and signaled for a clock stoppage, and the clock was stopped for at least 4 seconds and possibly 5. He calls these games all the time. Not like he does college and pro. He's a pro-only official. Why would he do that?
I have no clue. Somebody needs to answer for it. But the Saints did end up losing. Washington outlasted them 120-19. They tried to give it away, though. Miami loses a very winnable game. I'm done with Tua. He threw 3 terrible, not bad, terrible interceptions, all at crucial times in the game. We could have easily won that game.
They held Houston to 198 yards of total offense.
Yep, under 200 yards. Defense actually stepped up. And I don't barely ever do this, but that game was on one player. It was on Tua. Go watch it and watch the 3 interceptions, scenarios they were in, the situations, the field position that they were in. All 3 of them, terrible interceptions, literally right to defenders, Anthony. I mean, it looked like he was throwing to them. Maybe he's throwing games. Maybe he's betting or shaving points. I don't know, but it was bad.
They always say a special ability. He gets the ball out so quick. So they probably just were able to read what he was going to do. They took some chances, probably jumped the routes, and, he gets it out so quick. Maybe he already had his mind made up. Maybe that's his kill. But if you jump those routes and you're wrong, you can be burnt over the top. So I'm
done with him. Lost 20-12. The season's over for the Dolphins. It's over. Buffalo beats Detroit 48-42 in the game of the week. Shootout. Both quarterbacks were absolutely phenomenal. Josh Allen, 23 for 34, 362 yards, 2 touchdowns, 68 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
How can you top that? Well, Goff says, I'm going to go 38 for 59 for 494 yards and 5 touchdowns.
There wasn't much defense being played. Detroit lost a lot of players in that game, and now with Hutch already down.
And they just lost their Montgomery, who's out for the year.
I hate that for Detroit because they've had such a good year.
They do have a 2-headed monster at running back, so hopefully that doesn't hurt them too much. But, yeah, it's another big loss for them.
I do think both teams got to play better defense to win Super Bowl. I'm talking Super Bowl, not to make a good run. I think to win a Super Bowl, you got to at least be playing decent defense. So they got to get together.
Jared Goff says he has two rushes for 13 yards, too. So he said, what, Josh Allen? What? Philly gets the win, 27-13. I'm not going to lie, they kind of dominated. Now, you look at the stats, they dominated. I can't remember. Oh, here it is right here. 401 yards to 163 total yards. It was a domination. But Pittsburgh had a chance in this game late in the third quarter. The score was 20-13. Pittsburgh's driving on the 25, and they fumble. And that changed the game. So as much as they got dominated in the stats, in the yards, they actually were right there with about 4 minutes left in the third quarter with a chance to tie the game. So I don't know if that says more for Pittsburgh or more for Philly, but looking at the numbers, they got dominated. Tampa Bay, talk about domination, 40-17 over the Chargers. Tampa Bay, 506 total yards. Green Bay and Minnesota keep winning. Minnesota 30-12 over Chicago. Green Bay 30-13 over Seattle. Minnesota ties Detroit. They catch Detroit. They're tied for first in the NFC North, and they're tied for first overall seed in the NFC now. Green Bay's only 2 games back. They actually have the next best record in the NFC. They're 10-4, but they're 2 games back of Detroit and Minnesota. So watch out. Minnesota's looking for a number 1 seed.
There's going to be 3 playoff teams from that division.
Go back and listen to us in week 5. We would have told you there was going to be 4 teams in it. Chicago.
That's a tough division right now.
Oh, it is. And, yeah, Minnesota just keeps winning. I can't believe Minnesota's actually – I don't know who holds the tiebreaker. I want to say Detroit for some reason is still maybe in first. But let me tell you this. Guess who else is tied for first in the NFC? Philly. The difference between a 1-seeded Philly and a 2-seeded Philly, that home field advantage, I think, between – I guess you could throw Minnesota in there now, but – to me, if Philly gets the 1 seed, they're in the Super Bowl.
I get it. I think Philly's really good. My only question with Philly's Jalen Hurts, but I think Philly's they're loaded. They're the complete team. They're just a complete team. And
you need to stop the disrespect on Jalen Hurts.
I know.
Let's go ahead and get into these games real quick, Anthony. We only have 5 this week, another kind of down week when it comes to the matchups. We got 5 of them starting on Thursday night. Denver at the Chargers. Chargers are -2.5. I'm on Denver. I told you, I've been telling you all year I don't trust the Chargers. I tried to jump on them last week. I'm just not sure about them. The main thing I think, and we've said this multiple times, but I'll say it again, they don't have playmakers. They don't have – their best running back is out for the year. Who's their best receiver, Anthony? Exactly. You don't know. Exactly. Go ahead. Just say it. I don't know because I don't – I'm going to tell you right now, I can't name one Chargers receiver.
Yeah.
Can you?
No.
Mike Williams, does he still play for him? I don't know. Keenan Allen's a Bear now.
That's what I was going to say, Keenan Allen, and I wasn't sure because I thought I seen him somewhere else. I seen him with the Bears.
He's a Bear.
That's what it is.
I don't know any of their playmakers. They have got to dedicate this offseason to getting Justin Herbert, a top 4 or 5 quarterback in the NFL, some people to throw the ball to. I'm not saying that, they had Dobbins. Dobbins is a good running back, but, Dobbins is on the IR, so he ain't doing no good for him there. Denver is on the way up. Denver is 6-2 in their last 8. They've covered their five straight. Their defense is still performing. This is a battle of 2 really good defenses, actually. I'd probably entertain an under in this game, but I like Denver here. The Chargers hold the last playoff spot. Denver is actually in – they actually have a wild card spot too. So this is a really big game. Really big game when it comes to playoff implications. It's in LA, but there'll be more Denver fans there than Chargers fans. Yeah. This will pretty much be a home game for Denver. I'm taking Denver. I'm gonna take them to keep rolling. I think Bo Nix is starting to get better. Their defense is really, really good. They're a well-coached team. I'm gonna trust Denver here just because mainly I don't trust the Chargers.
For me, it's I'll go with Denver. I want to take the Chargers, Charlie. I actually like the Chargers, like their defense, like their quarterback. I have the same issue you have. They don't have many offensive weapons. The Chargers defense will play good against Denver. I'm a Bo Nix guy. I was in college. I like him. But I think that he will have trouble against the Chargers defense itself. So I would go under. It's only 41.5, but I would go under in that game. That's my bet I like better. But if I had to choose the game, I'd go Denver. I don't love it because I feel like the Chargers will play tough, gritty game. And I do think the Broncos offense, I have trouble against the Chargers. But I'll take Denver.
Yeah, I like the under too, Anthony. All right, second game. We actually have 2 games on Saturday this week. It's kind of weird.
Competing with college football?
They are. Now that I'm thinking about that, why did they do that?
Not a good move.
We've got a game at 1 o'clock, and we've got a game at 4:30. We've got a really good game at 4:30.
Do they do that on Christmas week? Is that a thing they do on Christmas week?
Well, they do that next week, too, because there's a game on Christmas.
Okay.
But I am really, really surprised. It didn't even register to me when I was writing this down that they are going up against college football playoff.
Yeah.
That's very surprising. The NFL is usually pretty smart about their scheduling, and I do not like this at all. I love the NFL. I don't like to miss NFL games, but I won't be watching. I will have the Pittsburgh-Baltimore game on somehow to watch some of that, but this first one, Houston to Kansas City, I won't watch it.
College football is competing against them by paying the players. You think the NFL is trying to compete with them, saying, okay, if you're going to pay your players.
Maybe. Houston at Kansas City, 1 o'clock on Saturday. They're going to be going right up against Penn State and SMU. So maybe I will have this game on. Maybe I'll have my both TVs set up. Look, this one all comes down to Mahomes. He hurt his ankle. I tend to think that they're going to sit him out. He's not going to want to sit out because that's not the type of player he is. He'll play through injuries. He's done it plenty of times, but I feel like this is a decent spot to just let him sit. They have Carson Wentz. I'm not saying Carson Wentz is good, but he's a veteran that started a lot of games. Did Carson Wentz win a Super Bowl?
If he didn't, he got pretty. They were good. They were good.
The Eagles won that Super Bowl.
Look,
Carson Wentz. I think Carson. No,
I was a big Carson
Wentz.
It
was Nick Foles. It was Carson Wentz got hurt that year, and Nick Foles ended up playing. That's what it was. But I mean, if you're going to have a backup, I mean, he's not a bad one, but he won't be able to do some of the stuff that Mahomes does with just the improv and making the crazy plays when they need to be made. I'm going to take Houston here. Houston's +3. I think if Mahomes doesn't play, I think that spread will go down even more. So I would jump on Houston right now +3.
I'm going to take the Chiefs. Look, I think the Chiefs are starting to heat up. As crazy as this sounds, I feel like they just kind of mess around sometimes. I do think they're starting to heat up. Andy Reid was super confident when he talked about Carson Wentz. I was a Carson Wentz guy when he was doing good. I was so surprised when he fell off. I think a lot of people was.
He fell off real quick.
He did.
Because I'm with you. I was kind of a fan of the kid. I thought he was going to be pretty daggone good.
I do remember, I think it was, forget who it was, but a few years back, Mahomes got hurt. It might have been even a playoff game. The backup quarterback, it was maybe
Chad Henne.
Henne. He came in. They were like on the 2-yard line. He led them on a 98-yard drive.
Chad Henne was. He
That's
was another one though. He was a veteran. He played for the Dolphins for a long time. Started a lot of games.
I just think, look, I'm a big believer. A lot of times your quarterbacks.
I got a Chad Henne jersey. Don't tell nobody.
They're only in as good or bad a situation. You know, they're only as good as sometimes their situation. I think it happens a lot in the NFL. Now, there's some guys that are just dynamic, but I think there's some good quarterbacks on bad teams that don't look so good. A lot of it's about your situation. And I think up until this year, Mahomes has had a really good situation. They've always had really good fast receivers and just dynamic. This year he hasn't had it, and they also haven't put up the numbers. I'm gonna take Kansas City. I'm gonna say Carson Wentz. Maybe he gets him another look at a starter from somebody.
Whatever I think that Anthony's going to do on Kansas City, he always does the opposite. It don't matter
I'm not big on Houston. You know I'm not big on Houston.
I know.
I think Miami held him to 198 yards. I've sold on Houston all year.
I'm not big on Houston either. I do think they're better than you think they are, but
I don't think they're bad, but I don't think they're good. I think they're in the middle.
They are. So we're split on that one. Next game on Saturday, 4:30. This one does kind of bother me. 4:30, going right up against Clemson in Texas. You got Pittsburgh at Baltimore. I mean, come on, guys. We couldn't flex this to Sunday night.
That's a good game.
We couldn't flex this to Sunday night, maybe a second Monday night game or something. We got to put this against the college football playoffs. I got a gripe about this shit. I don't like it.
Do you think maybe the NFL's mad for college football putting that? Maybe the NFL already kind of had that spot?
I'm sure I guess it's just something they couldn't avoid this year. Maybe it's a 1-year thing, and they'll, in the future, maybe they'll try to avoid going up against those 4 playoff games. I mean, I'm sure at some point you got to go up against some kind of bowl games, but
I don't think
wouldn't you avoid these 4?
Just from a money standpoint, a TV. I mean,
Pittsburgh at Baltimore is a big damn game.
It is.
That's.
And there's some people are just NFL guys, which, it's not me, but some people are.
No, but I'm going to watch that game.
Yeah.
Look, y'all know how I feel about Pittsburgh. I'm a half-ass Pittsburgh fan, okay? I don't love them or anything. My dad was a huge Pittsburgh fan, so I have kind of adopted cheering for him just because of that. I love Mike Tomlin as an underdog, but I don't think this is the spot. Baltimore is coming off of a bye 2 weeks ago. And you might as well have said they had a bye last week. They routed the Giants. They played a lot of backups late in the game. You might as well call it 2 byes in a row. At home, this -6 looks way too big to me, but I'm taking Baltimore. It's going against everything I think when I think about, for one, this rivalry is usually a 2 to 3 point game almost every time. When I think of Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers as underdogs, I want to bet them 100% of the time. But something here is just telling me that Pittsburgh's played a bunch of division games in a row. I want to say they played like 3 or 4 division games in a row before having to go to Philly. Now they go to Baltimore. And if you look at the rest of their schedule, I think they got Kansas City, Cincinnati, and maybe the Browns, which is 2 more division games. I love Pittsburgh this year, but I don't think it sets up for them late in the season. Their schedule is brutal. I'm going to take Baltimore here, man.
Charlie, I'm going to go with Pittsburgh. I seen a thing on the other day on Lamar's stats and seen his touchdowns. They were trying to compare him to Josh Allen, so I said I'm going to take a deep dive into his numbers. It's like 14 or 15 of his touchdowns have come in 3 games. They were huge games, of course, but 2 of them with Cincinnati, and the other one, I forget, but it was a really weak team. It was a really weak team. So he's had 14 or 15 touchdowns in 3 games.
Last week.
Against
the Giants.
Giants,
touchdowns.
So the Giants and then the Bengals twice. The Bengals a bad defense, and the games have been close, so they probably kept going at each other. But when he plays good defenses, he struggles.
You seen Watt got hurt.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly what it is. I'm hearing things that might say that it's not serious, but it looked like an Achilles.
Okay.
It looked like an Achilles, but
I didn't know that.
Now, I don't know if he's going to play. I did see something that said it wasn't that bad, but I haven't read into it. I'm not sure if he's going to play. I'm not sure if he's injured bad or not, but it looked bad. I think it was Lane Johnson that was blocking him when it happened. What do you see? Likely ready to go. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of what I saw, that it wasn't as bad, which is great. That's great news because it looked like a torn Achilles. The guy that was blocking him, Lane Johnson for the Eagles, you could tell that he thought it was a bad injury too. Yeah. He was blocking him. Watt went to the ground, and you could see Lane Johnson was like, he was worried about him. Like, he went right up to him. Class act, really, kind of in the middle of the play. Play was kind of still going on. So hopefully he is back. But, yeah, I'm just it's just a feeling here. Just a feeling. I get that. I love Pittsburgh. I love taking them plus points, but I just don't like this spot.
I kind of got that feeling, too. I know what feeling you're talking about. Pittsburgh already took care of them.
I just think that schedule that they've had, too, has been brutal. 3 or 4 division games in a row. Those are tough. Division games are tough,
they are.
They're tough, they wear on you. And then they had to go to Philly, and now they got Baltimore, Kansas City, Cincinnati. I just think their schedules beat them up.
I think Lamar, and look, he could have a big game here, and that don't, I think Lamar really does well against the mediocre to weaker defenses when he plays the tougher defenses. I don't know what they do to him. It seems like the tougher defenses he has trouble with. I read a thing where when he gets to make really quick decisions, he gets to run around and scramble a lot, so he gets more time to process, which, that's his ability. That's his ability. I'm taking away from him, but when the better teams can make him make quicker decisions, they act like that's when he struggles the most. So for me, when I really dug into his numbers, when he plays the better defenses, he struggles. Pittsburgh's got a good defense. I'll take the points. Pittsburgh.
All right, next game, Sunday, 1 o'clock. Philly -3 at Washington. I did not do any research on this game. I'm just going to tell you, you like the eye test. I like the eye test. Give me Philly -3. This is my pick of the week.
Yeah, I like Philly as well. I'll
like
keep it
them
at
a
that. I look, Philly,
a lot.
top to bottom, Philly's the best team in the NFL. They just are. And I'm not a Jalen Hurts guy. Then you say, well, how are you saying they're the best team in the NFL? That's how highly I think of the rest of their team. They got 2 number 1 receivers. Not many people got that.
Last week, he was 25 for 32, 290 yards, 2 touchdowns, 45 rushing yards, and a touchdown. That's pretty fucking effective.
I'm not saying you're wrong. It was probably one of the better stat lines he's had.
He's top 10 in QBR. He's top 5 in passer rating in the NFL.
And he's got a great offensive line.
He's 6th in completion percentage. He's only got 5 interceptions on the whole year. The only starters,
take that eye test and go look at it.
The only starters all year, the only quarterback starters that have started every game this year that have less interceptions than Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, and Josh Allen. Those are the only 3 quarterbacks that have played every game this year and got less interceptions. He's only got 5 picks, 6th in completion percentage, 10th QBR, 5th in passer rating. Look, I'm not saying the dude's
the week before he threw for 108 yards against the Panthers.
I know he did. How many touchdowns did he have? 2 touchdowns. How many rushing touchdowns?
They got the tush push. They got a great offense. They got a great. When I watch him, there is nothing special about the guy. That when I watch him, when I put my eyes on him,
because he's not a Josh Allen. He's not a Justin Herbert. But quarterback. But you got to do something. I mean, you don't got to do something. But if you want to be considered really good, he's 6th in completion percentage.
Yeah,
5 picks on the year.
Because you don't have
He's got his team at 10
because you don't. When you're that kind of team, you don't have to take risks. You got a great defense. You got a great running game, a great offensive line. You get time to process. You can punt it away. Your team can play defense. They got to bring guys up in the box to stop your run game. So the passing game's easier. But when you watch him, he never just wows you with his arms. He's not a Lamar Jackson or a Josh Allen with his legs. He's good with his legs, but they're just loaded. His throwing game's average. His throwing game's below average.
There's maybe 6 quarterbacks in the league I'd take over him.
We feel a lot different on that. I'm not saying that I'd have to look at who it is, but I'm not
there
very
ain't
high
many more that you're going to take over him if you're being completely honest.
Oh, I would. If I'm being honest, I'm not saying I'm right. It's the argument, but
because you're going to say you take Drake May over him.
No, I would take Drake May in a couple years over him. Yeah, but I would much rather have Drake May if I had a young franchise, I would.
You're nuts, dude. You're nuts.
I do not like him, dude. When I watch him, I don't see it. I just don't. Dude, I can change my mind. I'm not I can say I'm wrong and I'll change my mind on things. Listen, I don't like Lamar. I don't like him. But I know Lamar's good. Like when I watch Lamar, I'm like, damn, I bet you it's hard to defend. I do not see it with Jalen Hurts. In college, he was on a dominating team. They were down 28-0. They brought in Tua. He brought in Tua for a reason. You don't take out your All-American quarterback for a reason. Saban knew that it was the team.
It wasn't because Hurts wasn't good. That was because they thought they had a gem sitting on the bench.
And they did better than Hurts. And then he comes in at Philly and comes into
we could argue that because Hurts had a great college career.
He comes into Philly. They got two true number ones, a great offensive line, one of the best running backs we've seen. Defensively, they're stout. There's no stress as a quarterback. Some quarterbacks think they got to outpoint you. Joe Burrow, every time he's out there.
He's got stress. His fucking coach is trying to fight the fans. His receiver's talking shit about him.
His receiver talking shit because he knows he can't throw.
His running back is one of the best in the game. That motherfucker's got all kinds of stress on him.
Why is that stress having a great running back?
Because he's got to keep up with the stars on his team.
Yeah, when you got a great running back like that, and people got to bring extra guys in the box.
Everybody's talking about Saquon, and then you got your.
Let me have that as a quarterback.
You got your top receiver talking shit about you.
Let me have that.
Your fucking coach is a halfway fucking psycho guy that wants to fight. Oh, you see him last week?
Yeah.
He was trying to get to one of his players.
Yeah,
He was trying to get to one of his players, man. Sirianni's fucking wild.
He is.
Did he didn't even. We didn't put him in the bracket.
We should have put him in there just for being crazy.
He probably should have been in there.
Yeah,
he's Italian.
Yeah, he would have won a street fight.
Hell yeah,
he picked up a stick and
he's damn right. Sirianni should have been in there. I think we got to reevaluate.
I tell you, for me when I watch him, Charlie, he don't have the it. Like I said,
I know it sounds like I love Jalen Hurts. I really don't. I just think he's good. I think he's a very effective quarterback. I don't think he's a gunslinger by any means. He's not.
To me, when I watch Lamar, I do not like Lamar. I've let it be known. He's a Louisville guy. I like throwing quarterbacks. I'll be honest with you. I think the quarterback position is not the way it's played now about scrambling around and buying time. They protect the quarterbacks too much, in my opinion, and that's what allows them to scramble around. But anyhow, I can respect that Lamar is hard to defend. To me, if I was a defensive coordinator, that's hard to deal with. His ability to run and buy time and allows guys to get open, that's hard to deal with. But for me, Jalen Hurts, to me, maybe his best attributes is he's decent with his legs. I don't think he's dynamic with his legs, but he's decent. His throwing ability, dude, I think is below average. But that's just me.
At least he's smart.
Yeah.
5 on 5.
Well, you can be smart when you got that kind of team.
6 in completion percentage and 5 interceptions.
Once again,
at least he's not a dumbass.
When you got a defense like that, okay, let's punt the ball. We'll be fine. We'll get it back. You got a running game, hand it off. They got to bring guys down to try to stop that run game. You got 2 stud receivers. That's hard to defend, dude.
Yeah, but
how would you defend Philly if you were a defensive coordinator? Honestly,
that's a whole other ball game. We evaluate stuff. I know you like to take stuff away from people because they have good teams. I don't
take it away, but I don't give them just the.
Yeah,
I just don't know.
See,
you're putting words in my mouth. I think Tom Brady's a top 5 quarterback. That is great. I don't think he's the greatest of all time.
Just like
he's a top 5.
Well, you said Tua wasn't no good because he's got the weapons.
I don't see it. Tua don't pass my eye test.
I don't disagree with the Tua thing. I'm just saying you tend to take stuff away from players because they have really good teams, really good supporting cast.
Because I don't want to base it all on wins and losses. And I think that's what a lot of people do, is they just base it off. It's a team sport. There's a lot more to the team than just the quarterback. I think the quarterbacks take way too much criticism. I think they get way too much credit. It's a team sport. And I think your average fans and even analysts and stuff, they make it all about the quarterback. It's just all they just make it about the quarterback.
It's always been like that.
I'm not saying it has, but it ain't right.
New.
It ain't
been
right.
Like that for 30 years, ever since I can remember.
Look at
Troy Aikman, Joe Montana. They were all getting the credit.
Look at Baker Mayfield.
Dan Marino got all the fucking. Even though his defense sucked, his running game sucked. It's always Dan Marino didn't win this. Dan Marino didn't win that.
Baker Mayfield. They making fun of him in Cleveland. He's going down there looking like all world now. So, Darnold up in Minnesota. Sometimes you just got quarterbacks in bad situations. You just do. And then you got some quarterbacks that are in the damn sweetheart situations. Have great coaches. It makes a difference.
It does, but we've seen before, and we've seen just this year, Tua had a lot of good supporting cast offensively. When he went out, you couldn't just plug another guy in and then just make it happen.
Sure, I think Tua.
It's easy to look at it and say, well, anybody could throw in that offense.
Y'all's backups were bad, though.
They were. But
Y'all's backups
they
were bad.
But I'm just saying, though, it does kind of prove to the point that it's easy to sit back and look, man, all that speed, anybody could do that.
Well, I do think a lot of times, especially in Miami's situation, McDaniels kind of built his offense around Tua and getting the ball out quick. Yeah, I mean, if not, you would want the big, tall receivers. They got these guys that are quick and can really get open quick. And I do like Drake May up there at.
I know you do.
I like him up there. He's a good young quarterback.
You'll say he's better than Patrick Mahomes.
No, but if I had a franchise right now at their age, I would take May. I would buy May if there was a stock. I would buy it of him. Yeah. Mahomes' big thing coming out of college, he wasn't very accurate. At the combine, he wasn't very accurate. I still don't think they're accurate. I don't think Lamar's accurate. They run around long enough till the guys get wide open. Them guys don't throw into tight windows. That's the thing of the past because they just scramble around till somebody gets open because you can't hit the quarterback. If you could hit the quarterback, that scrambling shit wouldn't happen. It just wouldn't happen. We're seeing it with Trevor Lawrence. I know we want to talk about that today, Charlie. Allowing these quarterbacks to slide, that's what you're going to get into. That's what you're going to get into.
I kind of feel strongly about that position, so maybe we'll wait until next episode to talk about that. But I've been wanting to talk about that the last 2 episodes. We're kind of running long here, so we'll wait. But we will touch on that because I have strong feelings about the quarterback sliding deal. I'm an offensive guy. I played quarterback. I'm a quarterback's guy. But I got strong feelings, and it doesn't back the quarterbacks in that situation.
We're on the same page.
All right, let's get this last game real quick. Minnesota is -3 at Seattle. I ain't got a whole lot to say about this one either. Give me Minnesota. I've been trying not to buy them. Minnesota's good. And Sam Darnold's going to get paid somewhere. I don't think he's going to be playing for Minnesota next year, but I do think he's going to get paid somewhere. He's got a good opportunity, and I think a team is going to have a good opportunity to have a fairly young, 27, 28, I think he is, quarterback that's got a handful of years left. I was completely wrong. Do you hear? I'm going to say it again. I was wrong. Sam Darnold does not suck. He's pretty damn good. You know what I think sucks? The Jets. Any quarterbacks that play for the Jets, that's what sucks.
Would you take a chance on Zach Wilson?
Yes. Did he play for the Jets?
Yeah.
Did he suck?
Yeah.
I'd take him.
That's right.
I'll take him. Look, just don't go to the Jets.
Don't go to the Jets.
Don't go to the Jets if you're a quarterback. Aaron Rodgers, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, went there, and he looks like trash.
Yeah.
But I'm going to take Minnesota. I actually think Geno is a little bit beat up, or maybe he got hurt last game. Not sure if he's playing. Questionable. I think there is questions if he's going to play.
Who's their backup?
I do not know. I'm going to take Minnesota, and they just caught Detroit. Detroit got beat. They're tied. I don't think Minnesota wants to give that up. Detroit, we didn't highlight their game, so I'm sure they've got a pretty winnable game this week. But I guarantee you Minnesota doesn't want to drop back to down a game there. So I'm going to take Minnesota. I kind of like that a lot too.
I like Minnesota a lot. Minnesota has the number 2 run defense in the NFL. To me, for Seattle to really be effective, I went back and I looked at a lot of their play-by-plays. I think it was last week. For them to be effective, they got to have their running game working or not. That's and set up the play action. That's just kind of how they play the game. Seattle has a good running game, but with Minnesota having the second best run defense in the NFL, I think that's really going to play into their hands. So I'm going to take Minnesota minus the points. And because of the situation with how they can shut down the runs, Sam Howell was the backup. I'll take Minnesota, like them a lot.
Yeah, me too. All right, so we actually agreed on 3 of the 5, Denver, Philly, and Minnesota. So let's just do a 3-game parlay there, Denver, Philly, and Minnesota. But let's do a 2-game parlay too, Anthony, Philly and Minnesota. Since Denver is the Thursday night game, Let's do one with Denver in there, but then let's also do a 2-game parlay, Philly and Minnesota. Those are my 2 strongest picks. I really love Philly. I love Philly and I love Minnesota.
I do too.
They're both on the road, but I like both of them a lot. So we'll take Denver out of that one just in case the Chargers kick our ass on Thursday.
We got to have some action left.
Yep. So 2-game parlay and 3-game parlay there. As always, thank you all for listening, especially if you listened all the way through. I know some people might listen. They might not listen all the way through. If you did, thank you. We appreciate you. And you guys that are still here at the end, you are the ones that we definitely want to hear from once we start this text line. So please, if you're an every week listener and you enjoy the podcast, please get involved here when we get this text line going and send us some feedback. Like I said, it can be some fun stuff. Tell us how we suck. Tell us what takes that we have that are absolutely awful. And maybe we'll read them on the show. So thank you all for listening. And on to this weekend. Everybody have fun. Have fun this weekend with these 4 playoff games. I can't wait. I know Anthony can't. We're going to try to go watch it somewhere Saturday night. But, guys, again, thank you very much. Continue to support us. Check us out on the social media platforms and keep an eye out. Soon we're going to have a direct Blitz the Bookie text line.
Guys, as always, thanks for listening. I enjoyed this. Charlie enjoys it. I hope you guys enjoy listening. The text line is going to give us a great way to kind of get some of your feedback, and not just feedback, but your opinions on the games, on different things. It's I wish you were right here out in the audience, out here in the stands. It's I wish you were. I wish we were all here talking sports together, because that's the part about it I enjoy, always have, always will. So on my deathbed, I hope they put a notebook with a bunch of notes and let me watch football and let me analyze it. I'm not saying I'm the best, but I sure do enjoy it. So.
All right, guys, we'll catch you next week. Blitz the Bookie.
Yep. See ya.